great weekend. Today, we've got a lot of interesting topics with Amazon getting back into healthcare, Bob Iger, I think Bob Iger, coming back to Disney, and Ryan Cohen finally breaking his silence on GameStop and Bed Bath and Beyond. We're going to host this talk a little bit differently, where I'm going to kind of limit the number of people who come up so that people actually have a chance to really talk through everything they want to, and there's a couple fewer interruptions when people are talking. But with that being said, welcome back. And who's going to kick us off?
So
Good
with
morning,
Bob
everybody.
Iger replacing Chapek and coming back to the Disney board, Disney now up, I think it's like 11% pre-market. I'm wondering to what extent this is just a surprise pop followed by a slow decline back to fill the gap, especially with SPY looking a bit red today.
Well,
And here's your motivation for the day. If you think you have problems, just remember, at least you're not a Tesla.
fair enough.
What does it have to
Well,
do with Disney latter day?
Disney, nothing, but it's its own separate problem.
all right. I think the pop is quite justified if you look at how badly Chapek, am I pronouncing that right? Chapek has mishandled Disney to the point where their share price has really plummeted alongside his streaming decisions or decisions to
Yeah,
pull them into streaming.
Well,
I'll worry about how you pronounce it.
part of the problem with Chapek is that he really doesn't have any good places to make decisions. Disney parks are overflowing with the exception of Shanghai. And in order to maintain the growth that the street expects, they need to increase the average customer value for the parks because you can't add more people. So all
But
that's
I
left
just,
are the resort properties. Not a lot of land in Disney World that you can use to build a resort, and those take 2, 3 years to realize the grand opening. So what's left are the cruise ships and what's the other and the streaming service, the content creation.
but shouldn't he not have as many problems due to the fact that this, the time he spent as CEO is primarily during kind of people coming back out of COVID and,
Correct. So
how are
that
these
gigantic
restrictions?
surge in demand should have been his highlight. What cemented him as, yeah, this is the right man for the job. The fact that he couldn't capture that demand and turn it into profits for the shareholders suggests uh, he's not yet fit to lead. At least,
Yeah.
not the whole company. He has been a leader in the parks division, and I'm sure he was instrumental behind the likes of Lightning Lane and Genie Plus. So, and this is
Yeah.
speculation on my part. Near dated puts on Disney as long as IV doesn't spike too high when market opens.
So you're thinking that there's going to be this initial spike now that Iger's back in business, and then people are going to go, wait, but Disney still has all these problems, and it's going to slide back again.
It depends entirely on how Iger intends to fix them.
But as far as the guy he just replaced, opinion, I'd say he can worry about how people actually pronounce his name, and he doesn't suck as a CEO.
Yeah, well, I think that's a conversation I'll have to have with him at separate time. Um, that being said, what are Disney's competitors looking at doing now that Bob Iger is back? Are those stocks taking a hit? What would be the best comparable for Disney?
I don't know if there's any one specific company that you could point us to, like a direct competitor as Disney, because they have their hand in so many cookie jars.
It's going to be really hard to compete with Disney just because of all their IP, especially with Star Wars now.
All right, then I guess we've run this topic has run its course. GameStop, Ryan Cohen broke his silence, if only a little. Interestingly enough, he was unwilling to explain what he was doing at Carl Icahn's house.
The media has come out and said that people, quote unquote, people familiar with the matter, said that Icahn was not impressed and felt that GameStop was overvalued. But I think investors in
What's their
GameStop are
source?
generally exactly are
So
not huge fans of the media.
did you guys watch the interview?
Yes, I watched all 40 minutes.
Did
Um,
it
Same.
seem strained, like forced?
Oh,
Like
the questions were absolutely pre-vetted before they
he
asked them.
read them. He literally read them off a piece of paper. And
well, I
GME
think
DD has 4,000 followers. Though they that shall not be named has 849,000 followers, and Wall Street Bets has what, 13 million. So why did they pick this little fellow that nobody knows of
I think
to
the answer
read some
is,
questions?
I mean, Hanlon's razor. Like, I think the guy Joe Foncinello, pronouncing that wrong as well, he probably was just the most enthusiastic and continually kept reaching out to Ryan Cohen and his team. I don't think there's really anything nefarious. As for the questions being pre-vetted, I think that's typically just something of like someone who's maybe like less experienced or more nervous when it comes to interviewing. But listening to the responses from Ryan Cohen, I didn't really feel like those were like pre-prepared or anything. So I'm not sure like the entire interview and everything was scripted or there's some master plan. And I think Ryan Cohen kind of alluded to that when they were going through some of his tweets, and it felt, at least to me, that he was basically saying every time, like, yeah, there's no hidden meaning behind this. All the numerology stuff that people have been doing is kind of nonsense. He didn't specifically say that, but that's the impression I got.
See, that this is my own personal take. Was the reason why they went through tweet one by one was a CYA, so he doesn't end up like Roaring Kitty because he tweeted something that's going to get him in trouble. So they went through his tweets one at a time, and he said, "Yeah, it didn't mean anything. Yep, it didn't mean anything. Yep, nothing."
Plausible.
That feels like a very Cope answer to me, but I think everyone's going to read into this interview however they can. I think the one thing that he did concretely kind of say was about Bed Bath and Beyond, which I will allow for this talk because it's Ryan Cohen, which is that his views change, and that's why he sold the position. And I think that kind of puts to rest a lot of the ideas that he sold to rebuy Bed Bath, the baby division later, and all the other kind of ideas that came out of that whole saga.
I don't know if I can get behind that. Do we know if he owns anything besides, like anything related besides Bed Bath and Beyond?
How do you mean? He owns a lot of companies through RC Ventures.
I'm saying like a stance in a company that is related to Bed Bath and Beyond, because he's walked out, right? Like he stepped out of it. But your statement is that his statements have proven that he is not vested in anything else. And so, do we know that for sure, or are we just basing that off what he said?
I thought he was a major holder in Apple on RC under RC Ventures. I'm trying to find it right now.
Yeah, I think that's his biggest holding, if I can recall. Let me know if you find the dollar size on that.
So, T Prince, are you saying that you think that we should try to get Ryan Cohen on here so we can grill him with
Absolutely.
questions?
No,
It's a wonderful
that
idea.
will never. There's too much chaos here.
I'm
He
kidding.
won't accept that.
But
I'd
yeah,
love to join.
I just it all seemed Ryan was he was relaxed. It flowed off the cuff, but the other guy, it was forced, and he was clearly just reading the questions. And I don't know. I just feel like there could have been a better back and forth if someone a little more experienced would have been chosen to actually do that interview.
If I had to guess, it was probably both. It was probably, to Hardy's point, less chaos in a smaller environment. But also, if it was me, I would want the interviewer that doesn't know what the hell he's doing, right?
Entirely possible.
Yeah, because
Right.
he's not going to ask any of the hard questions.
It's the thought. He's going to ask the questions. They may be hard or not. It's not it's the follow-up questions that an experienced journalist is going to think of in a moment.
Right on. But I think we've
Precisely
exhausted
what he
this.
doesn't want.
Exactly.
I think we've
I think you're
exhausted
right.
this topic a little bit, unless there's anything else people want to talk about in terms of plays for GME or Bed Bath and Beyond, other than the. Oh yeah, that's it. Weave, you had mentioned Tesla earlier. They're down 2.5% in pre-market to 175. What's going on?
So they announced over the weekend that they were doing a recall of over 300,000 vehicles due to an issue with the taillights going intermittently out on some of their vehicles. They said it was going to be an over-the-air update. So if someone actually understands what that means a lot better than me, because my understanding is like over the air, does that mean it's just going to be done like through the internet?
Yep, they just push a software update to fix all the issues. Much cheaper than bringing in the car and doing all the maintenance physically.
Yeah,
But
which to
I
me,
do.
I wouldn't understand if it's that simple of a fix, why it would hurt them that badly. Except, I guess this is like the third recall in like a week.
It's
Well,
it's a taillight, right? So rear-ending risk and visibility in dark is always a problem. And more importantly, insurance companies will likely sue Tesla for their faulty vehicle in the event of a rear-ending. So that is legitimate concern for Tesla's market value. Also, this is the 19th recall this year.
Tesla is just second after Ford in terms of total number of recalls. So, and they have been for up there like pretty much their entire lifespan. I think we've all heard about the build issues they had at the beginning, and I assume they continue to have those build issues. But are recalls really like that market moving that you would lose, I don't know, billions in market cap? How
I
many
should also
billions?
point out that these recalls, some of them were for relatively minor things. For example, the boombox music feature obscuring the pedestrian warning system sound, which seems a little silly because you have a car uh, with a good enough heads-up display or, well, dashboard type display that's capable of showing a pedestrian nearby without the music overriding it or making it hard to hear or hard to notice. So I'm going over this list here. I have some. I suspect the term recall is just being used in a generic sense, but doesn't automatically mean expensive return vehicles to dealership or shops for repair. It appears to just mean correct fault.
That's what
And
I'm trying
that's
to wrap my head around. You guys are talking about over the air, but to me, a recall is like you have to drive to the shop. So what do we just like park at the house and wait for the download? Is that what this is?
that's what so far 5 of the recalls that I've seen ended up being. But of course, the news being what it is trying to shit on Tesla particularly hard.
And I think historically it was like that, where you did have to go into a building. And I think this is another way where Tesla outdoes its competitors, where even if they do make a mistake, they can generally, or they do their best to try and fix it over the air.
This is kind of the reason why I don't want to operate in like hype stocks, and I think Tesla is one of those. Is realistically, if this is all this is, it's not that big of a deal. If I just park at my house and wait for a download, it's really not a fucking big deal at all. But
Unless
the
it's your only
market,
car.
the people who are in Tesla, I would say the vast majority of them probably don't understand that. They're just on the hype, right? And so they see recall and they're like, shit. I mean, that would be my assumption.
Let's talk about Tesla without the hype for a second. So, looking at its $14.83 book value, do we think it's going to settle somewhere closer to Ford, where it'll be like trading at a couple multiples of book value, maybe 140 a share? Or do we think it's going to be more like, say, General Motors, where it's going to come down to maybe $13 a share?
Well, I think the thing with looking at multiples is that people always forget that Tesla does not have mountains and mountains of debt like all the other auto manufacturers do. And so they conflate market cap with enterprise value. And I think that makes it quite challenging in terms of just doing a straight comparison like that.
I think that's a very fair counterpoint.
I mean, I'm not Kathy Wood, so I'm not going to give like a price point prediction out of my ass. So, like $5,000 a share or whatever. But I definitely do think it's very interesting to follow and even follow the decline. I wonder how much of it is really just being impacted by Elon Musk's chaos and that he's now the CEO of 4 companies.
Well, and who doesn't want a quote unquote recall that you can snugly park your car in the garage and wait for your car to connect to Wi-Fi and your update is done and your recall's over and you don't have to go sit at the dealership all day. Like,
Well,
that's amazing.
the good news is we have the absolute expert on Wall Street Bets on all things cars, Only Outcome.
Hey, how we doing, guys? Sorry, I joined the chat a little bit late, and honestly, I've not actually looked at the paperwork for the Tesla's last set of recalls. But just going back to a point that Hardy was making, basically what a recall is, at least within the US, is anything which is deemed a safety-related issue. So if you have something whereby a safety function on the car isn't going to operate within required parameters, then you'll have one of two types of recall. It'll be a compulsory recall, as designated by NHTSA, NHTSA, or they can do a voluntary recall if it's not something which is federally regulated, but they still deem it a safety lapse. Now, regard to the actual terminology recall, well, it's quite an old term. So going back to your point of opinion, yes, absolutely is. Maybe in the past it was something whereby, you kind of had to take your car to a dealer and do this, that, and the other. Well, not necessarily anymore. It can be done by an OTA update, but it still qualifies as being a recall just because it's safety related and therefore requires control by NHTSA to ensure that every single vehicle is actually targeted.
So how do you assess the impact, like the financial impact, given any specific recall? Like, what are you looking for?
Okay, so it does depend on what the recall actually is. So the financial impact on something like something which can be fixed by an OTA update is really your engineering costs and software validation costs. Now, Tesla, being brutally honest, they're a bit lax in this area. They don't appear to quite validate their software to the same level as a lot of other OEMs. You can call that good, you can call that bad. It means they can roll out updates very quickly, but they might not be 100% correct. At which point, the things, if you've done your OTA update, your real impact is on reputation of the business. So you can't get away from recalls becoming public. It's very difficult to do, and it just doesn't look good for the business. If you've got a recall which requires a physical modification to the vehicle, so they had some boot latch or boot issues earlier this year, then you've really just got to look at, how much of these parts are actually going to cost me to get out into market? How much do I have to pay the technicians? It's kind of stuff like that. But being brutally honest with you, recalls are just a part of the cost of doing business these days. Since the Toyota unintended acceleration debacle back in 2008, 2009, recalls have gone up steadily year on year on year. There's about 53 million active recalls in the US alone at the moment. It's just part of business.
Well, you mentioned auto acceleration, which I think is like the holy grail of terrible errors that can happen when manufacturing a car. And Tesla did just have a case of that that was recorded in China. I'm not sure if you'd seen that.
Yeah, I saw that video. I was a bit dubious about it, being brutally honest. I've never actually seen a genuine case of unintended acceleration where hitting the brake pedal hard enough wouldn't have fixed the problem. Now, the reason for that is that brake systems operate nearly entirely independently of drive systems. And whereas drive systems, you might have a few hundred Newton meters of torque accelerating the vehicle, brake systems operate thousands of newtons of meters torque decelerating the vehicle. So to me, it looked like a panic driver. They've got the axle pedal. They've either stuck the axle pedal down under a foot mat or something like that. They think they're pressing the brake pedal, but actually they've still got the foot on the axle and they're wondering what's going on. That's what it looked like to me.
Fair enough. I mean, I guess that probably discounts the fact that maybe it was also a NIO deep undercover promotion video.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, the thing is the speed that vehicle appeared to be doing. Honestly, it's a miracle it was ever even vaguely under control. Something just didn't look right with it. I don't know. I didn't put any sort of major negative thoughts into it. I just sort of looked at it and thought, nah, doesn't look right.
Fair enough. All right. So rounding up the car talk, then, is Tesla, still in shambles? Is this a good price? What do you guys think? And this is a general question. Or would you prefer a separate car manufacturer, Neo, Rivian, Lucid, so on?
I think the problem with Tesla right now is people are still treating anything Elon does with Twitter or on Twitter as something that's going to affect Tesla. And so, due to that, people still don't know how to react about Elon and Twitter. So, there's just too much volatility. And I mean, frankly, I'm broke, so I can't afford shares of Tesla anyway.
Another thing. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think Musk has got it in him. I think Tesla is, when the iPhone came out, iPhone and Apple and everything ran that shit, and they still do, and everybody buys an iPhone and everything else. But a lot of times what happens is you get the person that makes the industry, right? Like Tesla has made the industry, but then that company ends up being the model that everybody else follows. It does not end up being the one that shows success. And I think that's what's going to happen with Tesla is like GM and all this other stuff are going to start to take a lot of their gains just because Musk is so disorganized and crazy.
So you're saying that Tesla is going to be the EVs of the Netflix of EVs?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I think like we're in that moment where Tesla's doing wonderfully, but I don't see the end game for Musk. I don't see him. I think he's too focused on rockets, and I don't know what the fuck he's doing with Twitter now. So like, how can he focus on making Tesla the biggest thing in the world, right? Like, I don't get it.
I suspect too many people think Musk is genuinely involved in day-to-day operations at his various companies.
I think something that there's a very serious consideration is that how much is that association helping the brand versus creating fear around the brand stability? And to take it a step further, if Tesla is run more openly and independently than directly being influenced by him, they should be more upfront about that and start creating that separation and establishing themselves, outside of the umbrella of Musk if it's going to be more beneficial to the longevity of the brand, because there will be a time when he's going to go off to the moon. I mean, let's say he goes up in a rocket and explodes tomorrow. There's still potential in the company. There's still potential in the things they make and do. They're not strictly driven by him.
I agree with that. I just think that his decisions and his behavior make Tesla a less stable company than the competitors, because the competitors have all the proper CEOs, right? They're doing all the normal business stuff. And so, yeah, maybe. I just don't see it making that cornerstone business, right? Like I see Ford taking it or GE taking it or something just because of how chaotic Tesla is. Or, yeah, not necessarily Tesla, but the whole, thing.
Well, I think this is all kind of ignoring, and I think it's almost a cop-out at this point to compare anything to Amazon. But Amazon also, similar to Tesla, getting a several-year head start, had like a 5 or 6 year head start with, actually, I can't recall now whether it was their e-commerce platform or it was AWS. Hardy?
Yes.
It was AWS?
Platform with when SQS was first launched as a product.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, I mean, having that big of a head start really does help. As for whether they end up remaining the champion is yet to be seen. Moving on, though, Friday was a pretty chaotic day. Very exciting for us here in the chat as we went into the actual market hours, as we were discussing everyone's favorite stock, Grindr. Had an absolute explosive day, going from basically 11 or 15 to 63 and then crashing back down. Curious if you guys have any more thoughts on that. People were talking about how its valuation lines up with Match or so what are your thoughts?
I haven't looked. What's it at now?
It's 36.5, and I think it's up very slightly in pre-market.
I think it's at a good valuation. I think it's at the same multiple as Bumble, based on user count. They really have their ad revenue locked down. We did some deep dive research into this thing. Apparently, it costs $20,000 a month to advertise on Grindr. That's pretty expensive. We also talked to some Grindr users, and they said that the ads are very prominent, and they often end up paying either the $13 for the day pass or the $34 for the monthly pass in order to get the ads out of the way. They also seem to just have a near monopoly on the LGBT market. I mean, they're just the biggest game in town. There were a few other dating apps that were mentioned by these members that some LGBT people use, but none has the volume of Grindr. And so, I mean, really, in a social network, the number of people on it is the value of the network. So, I think it's fairly valued. I could see it going down to maybe 24 as a low, but I would see it pinging off that resistance.
I mean, I think the main issue with Grindr is it's a single platform for a very niche segment of the population. I mean, you talk about, Opinion made comments about Match and Bumble and these other companies that they have a lot bigger portion of the pie to go after, because some of them they also include the LGBTQ plus community, and Grindr's specifically tailored to them, which obviously if you're a member of that community, that's got to be nice that you kind of have a localized niche. But in terms of market utilization, you have a lot less pool to pull from and to gain income from.
I would agree with you, but we're also dealing with the people that have the most money, right? Like, I think it'll balance itself out, specifically because the people that are using Grindr are going to be. I mean, I think, Opinion, you made this point that gay men tend to have more money than straight men do.
It wasn't me, but okay, I'll take the credit.
I thought it was you. Yeah, fair enough. But the point was made, and so I think maybe that'll balance itself out. You're right; it doesn't have as many people, but those people that are using it tend to be the people that the market are pointing towards anyway, like that 25-year-old, people, men with money kind of thing.
Additionally, they are loyal to brands. That community, when they find something they like, they're very loyal to it, and that was one of the points that the men that talked to us last night made. Is we have the money to spend, and we are loyal to the people that cater to us. So,
and speaking of someone who's very loyal to Grindr, Simple Vice.
I was gonna say, Opinion was talking from the experience about the gay spending. He knows all about it.
He's stand up for his own kind.
So it was.
Simple.
I was gonna say it was. I'm gonna butcher this name, Malaka. What that long Hawaiian name, who pointed out that gay people tend to have a higher income. But as far as the question of, well, the user base is so small, or potentially small, because it is a smaller subset than like what a Bumble or a Match or whatever can get. While that's true, they kind of have that market locked, right? In almost a really bad analogy, it's almost like early Tesla. Yeah, a lot of people weren't driving electric cars early on, but they were the game in town, so they could lock up that market. Obviously, I'm not saying it means it plays out that way, because it's not like the gay community is going to grow as Grindr becomes more popular. But the notion that, yes, small market to play with, but they're the player, right? Like if you say gay dating app, straight or gay, you think of the exact same company, right?
Yeah, so fair enough. So to summarize, kind of, it's Grindr owns the entire LGBT plus community. They're really monetizing well, and their market cap is relatively in sync with Bumble in terms that, all their ratios are kind of comparable. That's what I've gotten out of this conversation. I don't know if Simple Vice, you want to add any personal color or take us on to the next subject.
Yes, because I'm a regular user of Grindr. No, but a question out there. I don't know the answer, but I'm curious. What do you think when a recession hits, starting new year? What happens with the dating apps? Do they become more? Do they gain more users or less?
Well, so that's my next question: is do you have to have a subscription or whatever to send messages in Grindr like you do in the other ones? Do you have to pay to talk to people?
I think the specifics and the like seasonality of their revenue is probably something you'll find in their earnings report. So if you just close the Grindr app for 2 seconds.
The fellas that we talked to last night on Confused Money said that they have 2 options. One is a $30 a month subscription. The other one is you can pay $13 for unlimited for 24 hours, which one of them, that was what he opted to do, was pay the $13 for his 24-hour unlimited.
No, but I wasn't talking about one app. I was talking about a whole lot of them. Like what happens
he also said
in the
that
recession.
there was a hetero dude with a dog in a tracksuit as his avatar that was really, really big in Grindr.
Well, during the last recession, we didn't really have dating apps, so we don't really have any data to go off of. Simple. I mean, we don't.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
that's an interesting question, right?
So I mean, yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as ours, I think, on that.
Well, that's why I was asking about the messages, right? Because if money's great and I got all the money in the world, I'll pay to talk to people. But if recession hits and I don't have any money, then I'm not going to spend that extra $5 to talk to people. I'm going to put in my profile that stupid shit, like here's my Snapchat or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like people aren't going to spend their money there.
I did some research.
You know who has a free dating app which has almost 1 billion user? Meta.
Yeah.
Really? Never tried it.
All right.
They also have a yearly subscription for Grindr, which is 124 right now, which is 50% off. And I think that's where the number 723 paid users is reflected out of the 11 million users. And they're pushing their users to have the subscription base so that they can have ad-free experience. Now, I did some research into this during my Victoria's Secret DD, which is part of the idea that this culture and the infrastructure that we've established is easier and incentivize the pairing of 2 people, like marriage tax breaks and other things. So during a recession, it's common for people to actually pair up. Now, that's not part of what Grindr's business is, unfortunately. Grindr is for hooking up, and there are other apps out there.
I was talking about other apps. Yeah. But
there are other apps out there who are specifically meant for longer term relationships, such as like Christian Mingle or Bumble or Hinge. I think Hinge's tagline is the app that's meant to be deleted or something like that.
Yeah. So we haven't talked about Hinge much, and I don't even know if they're public or not, but I think out of everybody that I talk to about dating apps, everybody talks about success on Hinge. Nobody else talks about success elsewhere.
Hinge is owned by Match Group, but I think we've kind of talked about a little bit too much into the weeds about all these different stocks and not so much how it would impact their market cap per se or share price. I'm not sure if
came here.
I think one thing to take away is the guys who we're talking to, their user experience is changing to be more annoying with the apps and pushing them more towards the paid subscription.
Fair enough.
You're all talking about gay apps, and I just came here to talk about an interview that was done later yesterday.
Oh, well, I think you should have come earlier. But
yeah,
that's
late.
Fuck me. I missed the boat.
It's okay. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say coming too early is a mistake. But did you have any additional insight that you wanted to add to that interview or burning thought you had?
I don't know what was said. I think it was beautiful.
Brian Cohen as a man or the interview? And what of the interview? Like, what was beautiful in it?
And no, Ryan Cohen is not a man.
Yeah, you know,
the
like
interview was beautiful. The reaction was beautiful.
I've often used Grindr pairs, so I don't know if that's what's doing it, but wow, that Ryan Cohen guy, what a looker.
All right. We're gonna have to rename this like like Ryan Cohen fan club or something. But what other stocks are moving today or over the weekend on news? I mean, simple. You mentioned Meta, but they had like the UK coming after them again for like privacy concerns. Their stock's down like 0.5%, so like nothing. Do you think there's anything that can stop Meta other than Mark Zuckerberg spending all of their money on the metaverse, or
I want Meta to go down even more. I want Meta under $80. I'm not even joking. I want.
Wait,
I want it,
at what price did you buy?
Your average is 180 right now?
70, 75, something like that.
So you've been holding Meta since before the pandemic. You haven't averaged that
low.
low.
No. I bought it at the first fall, like a month ago or 2 months ago.
So you mean 175, not 75?
Yeah, 170. Yeah, 175. Okay. Yeah.
I thought you had bought into it like after they had first reported their negative user growth, which I think was like back in March, wasn't it?
When it dropped from the 300s to the 220s.
No, my average is 175 right now. But I wanted to drop to 90s again. Like I was gonna buy it at 90, but I don't know, from all the macroeconomic conditions that are out there and all the FUD that the hedge funds are spreading and the CEOs are spreading with firing, I think we're in for a rough beginning of 2023 after the Christmas and the Q1, maybe Q2 earnings.
This must be a cultural kind of difference, because usually when I buy stocks, I want them to like go up in value.
Oh, speaking of buying stocks, I'm exploring tentatively looking at Yang cash secured puts, selling the $15 strike December 16 expiration, waiting to see what the price will be when market opens. But the expectation is that as much as China wants to reopen, the reality is there's going to be another COVID spike somewhere causing local shutdowns. And potentially if a local shutdown hits a huge business center like Shanghai, then Yang goes up.
I got an email day before yesterday. I'm sorry, last week, Thursday of last week. I work for a giant corporation as a developer, and so last week I think I made the point that the layoffs that are coming down in the tech industry were not for developers. That may have changed. I'm not subject to that at the moment, but I know of two teams in the company that I'm in that are development teams that are both being cut out because of costs and stuff like that. And so I think those layoffs might actually start looking at developers more globally.
Oh yeah,
a lot of
I know people in
developers are
Microsoft.
Yeah,
in Microsoft, in Azure department that are laid off. Developers
Amazon.
worked there for a couple of years.
It's actually really interesting because Amazon itself has kind of like this really perverse system where you have a lot of upstream managers who are essentially deciding the layoffs, but there's also a lot of bloat internally within those managers. So you're seeing like a higher proportion of developers laid off according to internal blind reports than managers, and they're complaining about this, right? So, a manager will never review themselves poorly. There are no actual objective metrics for like a project manager. Their entire purpose in life, according to Amazon, is to essentially put you on a PIP. And if you're not aware of what a PIP is, it's essentially a performance improvement plan, which is kind of like their way of churning through developers. And a lot of the layoffs are devs in this cycle, and there are no project managers being laid off, and project managers actually don't provide value directly. They leech. So it's not going to be really good.
My feelings are hurt.
Sorry, Simple. Actually, the only reason I want to cut up here in the first place is because Simple didn't say what he wanted to say when he actually came up, which is, where are all the BBBY people? Where are they? How do you feel now?
True that.
Where are the BBBY people?
True that. No, I was gonna ask them, like, how is this good news? I went to their subreddit and it's beautiful. Like, the reactions are really something. I mean, it's something for a psychiatrist institution to look at, but it's really something,
We've got
We've got
far fewer people talking than we normally do, so I'm wondering if there's a bunch of hurt feelings this morning.
No, it's a new format. Please tell me how you like it, where we've got fewer people up here. I mean, there's like 20 raised hands, but I'm just trying to invite people up here so that we're not getting like 30 jokes on the same comment every time, and it's a little bit more streamed, and we're talking about separate distinct subjects. Something that I have seen mentioned a lot in both the Reddit comments and Twitch comments is Zoom earnings. That's ticker ZM. They were a star darling of the pandemic, and now they're a lot less than a darling. Is this something like who knows? Have any of you looked at Zoom or any of their competitors? Not sure which of their competitors are public.
I think that Zoom is going to continue to essentially decline, but I don't really think that long term that their story is as bad as the market shakes it out to be. They do have competitors with Teams. Teams, I think, is a much better product than Zoom. So I think that they do have some holes to fix there. But overall, it does not seem like the return to office that everyone was expecting has manifested to the degree that everyone expected it. So I feel like Zoom, when they eventually do stabilize their earnings, do start charging higher for enterprise, products, they should see a better return down the line. But I don't think it's going to be within the next few years because I'm overall bearish in the market.
Dude, even Slack is now having the addition of video calling, sending messages, and almost having meeting rooms. When they have it, it's a GG for Zoom.
Right, but that also feels a little anemic, right? Because Slack, if it takes Slack this long to transfer from just a chat project management service to video, then why do you want to bet on the company that's slower to move like that? All
right, there's reasons. Slack itself is reliable. That's a lot of the reason why they don't change a lot quickly. They don't mess it up quickly. So a lot of companies will rely on it because they know that it's not going to get fucked up. Teams, on the other hand, has a lot of annoyances for the people that use it because it idles itself after 5 minutes of no matter what you do, unless I send an interrupt to the processor, which I do with PowerShell so that mine doesn't do it. Teams is going to idle itself after 5 minutes, which sucks because I literally can't even go get a drink of water without going idle.
Yeah, Teams is fake watching you for everyone else. It's like the Panoptic. Is it the Panopticon? Whatever that shit with the mirrors.
So you don't use Google Meet?
No.
In Europe, majority of us use Google Meet.
I did it my last job, but that's the point that I'm about to come to. Simple is that a lot of this, because of the pandemic, because everybody went home, Teams and Slack both have picked up a lot of that slack, and especially Teams is taking a lot of the business away from Zoom, specifically because it's built into Microsoft. And so if you're using the Azure environment, you're going to use Teams. That's just the way it is.
Something else to consider, the federal government has picked Teams, which means not only is the entire government going to be using it, and they're probably going to be working remotely more than other places, any company that works with the government is going to be very heavily pushed to back Teams because the government's going to want them on their platform and familiar with it. And that's a huge deal.
If we line all this shit up, if we take the piece of software that all the developers and the people that use hate, and we take the same piece of software that all the managers love because it tells us when our employees are away, and then we force this thing down everybody's throat with Azure and Microsoft, Teams is the one that's going to come out on top. It just is.
You know what some US companies that work with government push to my brother's company, I left my ass off Skype. So they're pushing Skype, exclusively Skype. And I don't get it.
So if I recall correctly...
I'm just going to say the government does not like Skype. They feel it is not secure, and they do not want anyone near it. So just something to consider.
I'm pretty sure Skype, if you'll correct me, I think Skype is a Microsoft product, and it also tells you to use Teams.
It is. It's a Microsoft product.
Yeah, I believe Skype is under the hood for Teams, and they repurposed a lot of that acquisition software or tooling. But that being said, I think we're talking about the kind of the qualitative aspects of Zoom and not so much the financials. So I just had a quick look at their financials, and their revenues have been decreasing, their expenses have been increasing, and they recognize both those facts and guide that they will continue to do so. So I guess really the question is, do you think that Zoom is going to, lose money? I think they're still making money, but do you think that that revenue growth slowdown, and expense growth is going to increase in unfavorable ways?
I don't see how I don't see how they'll ever be as popular as they were during the pandemic.
That's what it boils down to. Yeah, they're. I think we're still pulling back from the like pandemic, blow up. And right now,
I was in court in the middle of the pandemic, and all the court systems in all that entire courthouse were all using Zoom.
Yeah,
they all had giant TVs, and so I don't know what that means, but I would say that the courtrooms are probably still using Zoom today.
Yeah, but legal systems use Zoom a lot. They haven't really. First of all, there's no need to like secure them like with Teams, so like there's less concern about that. It's just a very simple click a link, you have access.
Yeah.
And everyone has been kind of socially familiarized and aware of that. So a lot of public forum type settings do use Zoom, and they've been very good about leaving the door open for that.
So in terms of Zoom, what's the growth story, if there is one? Is it safe to say that Zoom has approached market saturation, meaning the number of users or potential market of Zoom users still exists? People who have never used Zoom who are good user prospects or customers of Zoom?
They're still, yeah, they're still growing. But the thing is, even though their potential addressable market has shrunk, so has their stock price. So it's all a question of, is their current stock price worth what is their company worth the current stock price? Sorry.
The addressable market has shrunk, and the cost to win new customers has gone up. So the only real way Zoom appears to have left to grow is increase the revenue per customer. And they've been trying to do that by investing in a series of collaboration type software on top of their video conferencing platform. And I've tried it. It doesn't really work that well.
Zoom is very janky compared to Teams. It's terrible.
So
I mean, Teams is very janky compared to a lot of other things too. It's not the end all.
I hate Teams.
But
I'm questioning what else does Zoom have? Do they do anything besides this platform?
Yeah, they have chat. They're implementing project management. They're doing like everyone. This is kind of like right now. It's like
no,
it seems like it's like
that's all they have, right?
Video chat. Like right now, it's on the surface. Zoom, Teams, all of these things seem like they're just like, oh, this is just video chat software. But actually, what it is and what it seems like it's going to be going down towards in the future is project management stacks, right? And I think that's why why Microsoft is winning the race, because they already have like Azure, they already have like a lot of they have a lot of like horizontal integration there, and that allows them to deliver a better product right off the bat because they've been working on this for decades. When you look at Zoom, when you look at Slack, they're essentially offering you a one-off service, and then you have to ask yourself when you've bought it, why do I want this when I have to like take extra steps, work harder to integrate?
And that's what it's also trying to pursue the customer service and phone support type businesses.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of my point is that Zoom doesn't have much to back it up, right? Teams has Azure and Microsoft and Windows and all the things that they have. But if everybody decides tomorrow to stop using Zoom, there's no backup for that company. Like they're going to fail, right?
Google Meet. Oh, sorry. Yeah. For them.
Yeah. Like the company itself, like Microsoft has Azure to fall back on or whatever if Teams falls apart. So it's not going to hurt them. But if Teams takes the market share and Zoom goes down to like 100,000 users or whatever, that shit's dead.
Yeah. So Zoom is like this pure play company. If you want to, for anyone listening in that wants to, take a look and prepare for their earnings, you can also take a look at, and this was mentioned in the comments by someone, WebEx, which is owned by Cisco. You can probably look at Cisco's filings and glean a little bit of information there, but don't expect to at all try and compare the companies because Cisco does a little bit more than just telecommunications. That being said, I think we probably have time for one or two more topics. So does anyone want to dive in and take us to the next little thing? And we'll probably leave like 2 or 3 minutes for just plays at the very end, and then go into free talk. And I'll invite everybody whose hand is up after the bell.
So this one's from the comments, so it might die pretty quick. I know we all like to talk about meta, so we're going to talk about a different kind of meta. This one, the ticker is MMAT. And apparently, pre-market, they've jumped up quite a
Below
bit.
the market cap.
It's above the market cap's at 660.
MMMT went below. You sure?
I looked it up on Google to
There's
double check.
no way. There's no way Metamaterials is above the market cap. Get that out of here.
No.
At
Yeah.
166, there's 600 million.
Yeah.
And they're currently
Sure.
197.
They're above. They can be talked about.
So I think my understanding of the situation is that they spun off MMTLP, which is also above the market cap. And I'm not quite sure how those MMAT and MMTLP play together. There's something going on there. But I think something about like the float is very small. And so the price you see might not be quite as representative of the actual company value as you might think. Happy to be corrected, though.
For my understanding, what I understood from their subreddit, because they pop up for me like a week ago, or no, a month ago, and I read something about it. Like it's a pure pump and dump. Like shorts are getting squeezed, shit like that. I don't know. Like, does the company have any fundamentals? Because I didn't see it.
What was the ticker? I missed it.
MMAT. Mike
it's
Alpha Tango.
It's just a pure P&D target, man. I mean, it's all over our short squeeze and stuff like that. I don't know if there's any fundamentals here at all.
I'm in.
Can we speak about something we actually kind of are aware of, which is
The thing I wanted to talk about, though, it might take a while, is the second pipeline in Russia, St. Petersburg, blowing up. They are claiming that it is not an accident. This is the second attack on a pipeline.
Yeah.
Is
Sorry.
there companies attached to that?
Well, you're looking at liquid natural gas competitors, and you're looking at any sort of alternative way of getting gas into natural gas into Europe. So
Isn't there supposed to be a fleet of LNG ships just waiting for Europe to need gas?
Yes.
Guys, the
Nothing is
implication
going
of,
to change.
Yeah, the
with the
implication
one
of an explosion.
pipe blowing up. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's nothing.
no one gives a shit. It's been happening. There's a war happening. You're gonna see this shit constantly.
Well, the one thing that it does remind me of is that carrier rates are way, way, way down. Like we're back to pre-pandemic levels. So, not to necessarily take away from the LNG story, but that is something with a lot more, publicly traded companies that are, have a lot more meat to talk about. I don't know if any of you guys have traded carriers in the past.
A little bit of
who's back holding Zim?
Well,
I fortunately sold, I think, about $10 or $20 ago.
Scald, you were saying?
I mean, my thing is, I don't know how much those prices affect LNG carriers. I mean, they're specialized ships, specialized hardware. It's not the same as a shipping container, which is just a box.
He wasn't referring to that. He was just like, that's a more interesting story than this.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, let's talk about that. How they're back to pre-pandemic levels. Saw that little meme. I mean, is that? I assume we're done with bearish price action for Zim, and it's ups from here. I mean, where's the Zim holders at?
Why would it be up for Zim? It should be down. They're not earning as much money as they did during the pandemic with the prices.
Well,
yeah,
he's saying there's.
Right then. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Opinion.
Oh no, I was just going to say you're saying that there's no room left for them to fall, but I wonder because so much, like during the pandemic and when rates were high, there was excess. Like people were building new ships, weren't they?
It takes years to build a new ship. It doesn't work like that. And Zim, just like the truck carriers, they earned a bunch of money and now it's going down. So I don't see the future for Zim as it was. Not a chance in hell. Especially with the shipments not going through because there's nothing to go through.
Sorry, I muted you because your mic was giving me ASMR, as if ASMR was like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah, I don't know if anyone else.
It was hitting my hoodie. When did you mute me?
Oh, just now. All right. Well, I think we're in the last couple minutes, so I don't know if people want to shout out plays, and I'll start inviting everyone up so that we can continue the talk into market hours.
Tesla 180p, December 16th, 18th.
Those are going to be in the money. Did you already buy them?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I bought them a while back. But the interesting thing is that like further Tesla gets in the money, it doesn't really gain that much because of the volatility. So it has to be heavily in the money for you to start seeing it to pull away.
Are you short Tesla? That's yeah.
I'm short Tesla.
Yeah, you're good. I'm short Bed Bath and Beyond. I had
They're below market cap.
But it's going to zero, so that's the play.
What is a short to do when your stock falls below market cap because you were right all along?
Well, they filled my I had a put and they filled it on Friday, so I got 3,000 shares short. So I'll just write it down. It's up about $400.
Yeah, there was an insurance company I started shorting when it was at $5 billion market cap, and now it's under, I think it's 150 million last I looked.
Oh man, what a short. Doing the same thing with Carvana right now.
Exactly. It reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah, so the short interest is 35.81% on Bed Bath and Beyond. I'm going to check Carvana real quick.
I'm expecting a lot of FUD on Nintendo for the Pokemon launch.
What happened?
It's unplayable, which is not a term that I use lightly.
Real quick, shorts on Carvana is 39.26%. So that's the short interest on Carvana as of October 31st. So 40%, man, that's crazy. They're going to zero.
It's funny. A year ago, that was like the parameter to buy a stock. Oh my God, look how short the stock is. Let's all buy it. This is a great opportunity. And now it's like, yeah, it's going down to zero.
Yeah, it's the GameStop effect, right? It worked phenomenally for one stock, and everybody jumped in.
A couple of them.
Couple of them, yeah, that's true.
Disney, it looks like the Disney rally is fading in pre-market Hardy. Still feeling confident? Oh, he's not here. Sorry, who did I cut off?
Oh, I was just saying we're in a very
Disney rally is a complete bullshit. Disney rally is not going to hold. Not a chance in hell. One man cannot change a company.
All right, I'm writing this down. I'm going to roast you tomorrow. Simple. Sorry, who else?
Disney is planning to lay off others, by the way.
Disney just broke $100 a share.
Should we do puts on Anheuser-Busch because Qatar decided to ban alcohol sales 2 days before the World Cup?
It's the greatest advertisement for them. They are giving away beer for free for people from all around the world. I have friends there. It's a fucking madhouse.
You can drink in Qatar?
So
yeah, but not on the stadium.
Wow.
You can't sell it, but you can give it away. Is that what's literally happening over there?
Market open.
Yeah. They're giving away free.
All right, everyone who is stuck in waiting with their hands up, I will invite you up now. If anyone else wants to talk, just raise your hand, and we'll go into the free speak section of this talk.
On the Tesla conversation that we had earlier, the one thing that wasn't mentioned is that with all these other car companies releasing their own, like Mercedes, BMW, Audi, and everyone releasing their own electric vehicles, at some point, Tesla is going to have to start advertising, and it could be an interesting opportunity for Twitter to generate some advertising revenue from Tesla, if that's the route that they're going to end up going. But I don't see any way that they can't continue long-term without advertising and differentiating the Tesla product from all the other products that are electric cars that are coming out on the market. So that implies like additional marketing and advertising expenses more in line with what the other car companies are dealing with.
But wait, doesn't that with the same logic stops from all the other automakers to not advertise on Twitter just to fuck with Tesla and Elon.
Yep, exactly.
He could just not
That's a
allow them.
great point. That's a phenomenal point, because that's a direct reason why if you don't think Tesla is going to do well because Elon's handling too much shit with Twitter and fucking space and everything else, then yeah, they could all just kind of join as a group against Elon and crush Twitter, Twitter and Tesla.
Oh, someone in the comments. Oh, sorry. I was going to mention Mac, but Mac is actually under the market cap. It is a stock I hold near and dear to my heart because I traded it like 5 years ago when it was the same price it is now. But can't talk about it. Sorry.
Can I mention something off topic for a second?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
So I've been getting messages from a few people asking for access to the WallStreetBets secret pump and dump channel. Firstly, this doesn't exist.
Oh,
Secondly,
no, it's a secret. It's a secret.
Secondly, if you're in the SEC and you're looking for something to do, why don't you write a letter about Gary and ask to investigate him for FTX? How about you do that instead of hitting random people up on Reddit? It's a waste of time.
But if you do want to join the secret WallStreetBets channel, it's in the Discord. It's in the comments. It's the Discord. You probably won't make any money if you join there, but you should still do it.
Super secretive. Nobody knows about it. Pump and dumps all the way.
It's
super
so
secretive.
secret, we don't even know where it is.
There's a secret handshake, but you don't want them to learn about that.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Let's just say you're shaking something with your hand, but it's not someone else's hand.
All right, I'm starting to get ideas that you guys aren't talking about a real handshake. Maybe like a internet handshake or something.
I think they're talking about
going
dicks.
into the whole circle thing that he was. I don't know.
You can learn
All
about
right.
it on Grindr.
Welcome to the after show, guys. It's after 9:30, which means all bets are off.
Opinion.
Cool.
Do you think they were talking about dicks?
Oh, that's right. That's
No.
right. Dick's Sporting Goods, DKS, great stock. I don't know anything about it. Should probably learn something about it so I can make some more jokes later. Actually, speaking of which, how is like retail doing? I thought someone had mentioned Victoria's Secret, but I guess it was just they mentioned something else. But at least Aritzia, which is a clothing brand up here in Canada, like a retail chain, has been performing quite well, which was surprising to me as most brick and mortars are kind of eating shit, namely GameStop and Bed Bath & Beyond, but I mean others as well. So, I mean, I'm curious if anyone here is bullish on brick and mortars.
Oh, Ross stores did really well, and the person that you're referring to, he was the same person that invested in Ross and Victoria's Secrets. So I think those are doing pretty well. The discount retailers seem to be doing good too.
What is Ross? I'm just looking up now. I've never heard of it. American
Ross
brand.
Stores, ROSS. They own clothing stores, and I think they own a couple of other chains. I'm not that familiar with it.
They're like a Marshalls. I don't know if they're owned by the same people, but it's kind of like that like nice clothes at a cheap price, and kind of whatever, average like a clothing place.
What really surprised me was Walmart and Target, their earnings. That was really surprising.
Victoria's Secret, Macy's, and Foot Locker are up since I began talking about them, which was about a month and a half ago now.
So can I give you a list of other stocks to talk about that need to go up?
We have a market maker, boys.
Well, no, he's just not telling you about the stocks he talks about that didn't go up. But I was surprised to learn that Target actually faces $3 billion in theft every year, which explains why, back when r/shoplifting was a common an interesting subreddit here. Everyone was talking about how like aggressive the target theft prevention was, and shrinkage which is what they call shoplifting or loss in general, is pretty fascinating. I was shocked to learn that Target has $3 billion in theft. That's crazy.
Is it based? I mean, I don't know shit about it. I don't live there, but is it based because of the locations where the stores are, or is it something different? The argument that I saw was that they have less people than Walmart, and the stores are messy. The entrances are bigger. Costco has much smaller entrances. Like everything is checked out. Like, what's the deal? Like, why is it like that?
I've never gotten the impression that Target was more messier than a Walmart, but all that shrinkage stuff is priced in.
No, I think the shrinkage though has increased a lot, especially when you look at all this self baggage. I mean, some of these stores, you have no option but to go through your self checkout. You have, you're scanning shit. You don't know what you're doing half the time, and it's asking, whatever. And you have a question, and you're trying to get the guy over, let alone check to see at the end whether or not you paid for everything in your bag. They don't do that. And I think there's a lot of increase in shrinkage or theft, whatever you want to call it, because of the fact that these guys just don't give a shit that are monitoring, quote unquote, the people paying for their shit and leaving.
Yeah, it would depend. I haven't really been in a Target, checked out their self-checkout, because I know Walmart, they've been using a lot of AI technology on the self-checkout, and people get super annoyed about the whole self-checkout thing. They always complain about having to bag their own groceries. Side rant there, but anyway, so they have things where if it looks like you're mis-scanning an item or you didn't actually scan it, that it'll pick that up and it will hold your whole transaction, and someone will have to go there, and it's like VR review where they look at the footage and like, okay, did he miss? No. Okay, whatever. I don't know if Target has that same thing going, and if they don't, they're probably screwing themselves over.
I think it's all just a learning process where they identify something went wrong and then try and fix it in software and minimize the costs going forward. And but it's like Elon was saying with Twitter, right? It's like you can complain all you want, but you're still here, so give me my $8.
I think if we're honest, probably other retailers experience more shrinkage. Target's just the only one that knows it. And the reason I think this is Target's crime lab is probably more advanced than the crime lab of any country that you're in. And you're thinking, well, wait, I live in America. Well, the FBI actually uses Target's crime lab and has a contract with them. So that should tell you how advanced their forensic lab is. And I've posted an article in the comments to talk about that. They have solved murders. They have solved arsons. Like, they have solved crimes in the Target crime lab just because of the amount of data, and their forensic techniques are so advanced.
Is
this where the strong argument for what he was just saying, that all of the other retailers are experiencing the same shrinkage, they just don't know it?
I mean, they know it. I just don't think they're reporting it, because like that's something they track. My specific store, I think our shrinkage was somewhere around $900,000 just for my Walmart, and they were ecstatic because that was less than what they were expecting.
What you have to realize is a lot of these stores nowadays aren't reporting it because it's not worth the amount of money that they have to spend if the person does get caught. It's just not worth their time.
Yeah, exactly that. The attitude of these larger stores is so lax.
Yeah, one of my friends worked as a security guard like 5 or 6 years ago, and he'd said he would just let people walk, and he was instructed, don't ever get into any kind of physical altercation with someone who's trying to shoplift.
I can tell you, at least in the Texas area, CVS, Homes Depot, Lowe's, they don't report these things for at least a couple days, and these are thefts of like $5,000 plus. They don't give a shit. They make so much money, they don't care.
All right, guys. So if you run out of money and you lose it all on trading zero DTEs, you know how to get your next fix. But
they'll catch you eventually.
That being said, yeah. So retailers in a good spot. bad spot? Going to survive in the coming recession? Or is the recession over?
Q1 23, they'll still be fine. Q2, it's gonna be a fucking disaster.
Why? What happens in Q2? You have inside info on the nukes, or?
I wish. No, it's just that Christmas and New Year's is done. I think the layoffs are gonna continue. People are gonna buy shit in Q4 to make themselves feel better, and yeah, that's it. At Q1 23, we're gonna see the Q2. We're gonna see the bullshit coming to the full play.
And isn't the Fed pivot expected Q1 or Q2 of 2023?
Q1.
I would say we're pretty close to the bottom based on the lack of interest here in the talks and the lack of plays down in the comments. I think when Opinion pins the suicide hotline to the top of WallStreetBets, that means that the bottom's really in. But I think we're close.
I think we've already pinned it. Sorry?
The goal that's been set in place is 2% inflation.
I suspect we have a long ways to go, especially because unemployment isn't going up.
I think when unemployment goes up, it's going to be a pretty violent move. I could be wrong, but I just feel like there's a lot of pent up firing that people want to engage in.
It's Thanksgiving week, so it's a bad look if a company announces a major layoff basically between now and Christmas, possibly between now and New Year's. So it's entirely possible mass layoffs will be on hold until Q1 2023, at which point the so-called second cut of layoffs will start taking effect.
Yeah, that was my logic also. And the new budgets are coming in at Q1. And I don't know, I'll see in my organization, but I'm not expecting any more crazy hiring.
What kind of flexibility do companies like large retailers have in the way that they report their layoffs? Because I'm a hiring manager, and the quality of the individuals who are coming in front of me and asking for a job has been increasing dramatically in contrast to the last 3 years.
I think usually you have to report pretty quickly. Otherwise, the media will report for you.
I had a question, Rick.
Sure, go ahead.
With the infrastructure bills and the funding from the federal government, if that's going to provide jobs as well, how does that work along with the Fed expecting employment to go down? So there's one aspect where you're encouraging employment with these projects, but you want to have more layoffs and firing. I just kind of wonder, like, I'd like to hear a little bit of view on that dichotomy.
Can you repeat the question?
So there's a lot of infrastructure funding coming from the federal government that will provide jobs. Now, we're also wanting to see lots of layoffs and high unemployment. So those two are going to counter each other. And I just wonder if a lot of that infrastructure funding is going to go into something like defense or along that lines, where it can be counted as job funding, but it can be really about.
He's basically asking, why is firing in IT, and they're going to hire those people back in construction, but it doesn't work like that. It's a sector-specific firing, I think.
No,
right now,
I know
IT,
those people are not going to. Yeah, I know they're not going to take the jobs.
They're not going to build bridges. Yeah.
But we want lots of infrastructure, yet we want to have lots of people laid off too. So I guess I wonder if those bills are going to be delayed or.
Well, yeah, that's a good
pushed
question.
out.
I mean, does that count as a job, right? If it's a government job, so it's our money, our tax dollars going to fund a net new job, does that count towards employment numbers? And the answer is yes, which is, yeah, you're right. That's going to hurt us because our unemployment is not going to go up like we want it to.
Yeah, but I think the thing is, like, markets can see through all this. We were talking about how most layoffs get pushed off until, you know, Q1 of the year. But they do that. That happens every year. And so when we compare figures, they're almost always stated year over year, right? Whether it's inflation or unemployment or whatever. So we're always comparing apples to apples in terms of seasonality. So yeah, I don't think there's any particular insight in the fact that you know, we're coming up on January where there's going to be a lot of layoffs. The only exception to that would be if, like, during the year prior, there weren't layoffs, so everyone was like building up, and then something happened at the end of the year. But the opposite is actually true. You know, we've already seen like tons and tons of layoffs already. So I would almost argue that whatever big layoffs happen in January are probably going to be lighter than they would have been if we were in a bull year this year.
Yeah, I think that retail has not laid people off because they're getting ready for Christmas. Usually the Christmas hiring starts early November, goes into December, so that they're
The
well
number
trained.
of seasonal workers being hired for the holiday period is substantially less than the year prior. So it's entirely possible some folks who are full-time or not seasonal will be let go along with the seasonal workers in Q1.
Yeah, that's why I think we haven't seen the layoffs yet in that section. Tech, though, is laying off a lot of people. And then Eager, Beaver, to answer your question, you're talking about a public sector stimulus to try and help the economy, which even though I know you're looking at it from an employment and inflation balance look at it, but maybe try looking at it from that point of view.
I guess it's a good point of view.
I guess mass layoff version 2 is how you stop a New Year's rally.
Yeah. This chat is kind of getting a little bit depressing. I think most people get a little bit bored talking about layoffs unless they're the ones pointing the finger and laying people off, or it's kind of unfortunate but weird situations like Elon Musk losing 88% of his staff, or like Better.com last year laying people off in like a conference call with all the other employees on the call at the same time and then just leaving and not ending the call. But yeah, I think we've kind of talked this to death. Let's see what are you guys like interested in market related, or what excites you guys?
I'm looking forward to the Kroger puts continuing to print.
Very nice. What strike did you get, and how much are they up?
I got in December 16 $48 puts for $1.70-ish, and they're currently sitting at 196. So
very nice.
Another win for, I think this was Delta Neutral. The Delta Neutral cross.
Hardy, are the Home Depot Gamma Max play still in play?
Which ones?
Home Depot 310 puts.
Let's have a look.
1216. I think that was Gamma Max.
I'm swing trading.
It gapped up. Stand aside. It gapped up pretty hard. I don't know why yet.
Okay, gotcha.
So I want to bring something to everyone's attention, and hopefully people smarter than me can help out with this. There is, at Friday towards the end of the day, a big sweep of purchases for SPY December 16th 440 calls came in, and there is a very large open interest on it. It is incredibly ambitious. I don't know if someone's betting on a Santa rally or something, but if you check it, it has a very large open interest. So I don't know if maybe some of the smart people here have any thoughts about that, but it's just something I noticed.
There was historic bias to the call and buy side that was being reported on Friday. I wonder if that's part of it.
I just know they're quite cheap, and I'm kind of tempted to just throw a very small amount of money at it to see if someone really smart knew something. but who knows? Seems very aggressive though.
All right. By the way, can you guys let me know if you enjoyed this format a little bit more? Fewer people up here at the beginning and a little bit more structured, or if you preferred a little bit the free for all in general. Just let me know in the comments.
Silvergate, ticker SI, just hit a 52-week low. I'm thinking that they continue going down.
Can you give us a little bit of a background on that and why?
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about it before. This is that. This is the on-ramp, off-ramp transfer agent that was being used for FTX for fiat currency into like FTX's holdings so that they could give you IOUs and stuff. I'm thinking that their partner, well, now that their partner is defunct, the investigation's gone into them, and it looks like just another scam, another piece of the scam, and their stock is suffering because of it. I got to look more into it. I've got to look more into it.
Hey, I got a question. I've been taking a look at Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin all last week, and it looks like they've all been up 19, 18%. I put a call for Lockheed Martin, I think 495 for December 16th. Just want to know what y'all's view is on the uptick on both of these stocks.
I think that uptick was short-lived because a lot of those they shot up when they had the missiles land in Poland, and everyone thought we were going to be headed straight to World War III. And then when they decided no, these weren't actually fired by Russia, it was just an accident because Ukraine was trying to shoot down Russian missiles, and everyone's like, okay, no World War III. And so
But the information that those were not Russian missiles, that was available like within hours. I mean, less than 2 hours after the news broke. At least in the channels I was following, there were images comparing the S-300 munition fired pieces of it with unfired rockets, showing that it was clearly not. And even in the worst case scenario, it was likely an accidental shot, a missile that was being shot down that was diverted across the border. In what scenario was that actually going to cause, World War III?
Because if they had been fired by Russia, it could have still been seen as an act of war, and Poland could invoke Article 5, and then World War III happens.
I mean, yes, you could argue that they could do that, but wouldn't that be, pencil sharpening? Wouldn't that be, just laughably? I mean, look at the events that do transpire that are historically
World War I was
drawing us
caused
into
by the
war.
death of one man.
An assassination of a high-ranking official, not an accidental, but because let me look what is the narrative. If you're saying Poland wants to invoke Article 5, you're saying that it would be, I mean, look, John Fetterman won election in the state of Pennsylvania, so anything can happen. I get it. But you're saying we would look at this and say, yeah, it was an accidental overshoot, not even an overshoot. The rocket was intended for a target within the border of Ukraine. It was diverted because of an act Ukraine took, and we're just going to use that as a casus belli and invoke Article 5. That's laughable.
Because the thought process would be, if we're starting to lose people due to accidents, when's it going to stop? That would be considered the first of many incidents. You got to realize that Poland is actually poised to build nuclear power plants close to the region that they share a border with Russia of Kaliningrad. So they're going to be concerned about that as well.
Hey, I'm sorry to interject, but still want to know the stock those two, going back to the main question, those two stocks shot up all week. Well, why do you guys anticipate it going down? And now what do you think, when do you think this is going to start happening?
Well, because I know the day that happened, they were up in aftermarket, and then they fell right back down in pre-market. So I think I'm not quite sure if there's any other catalyst as to why they'd be going up, but I think we'll start seeing it slowly down beginning this week.
Are you profitable?
Yeah, I've made some money, not much, but
What
when I saw
percentage?
it Wednesday last week, I just kind of did it, and it went up by what 7% from Wednesday all the way to Friday. It's still going up right now, but just
So
wondering.
just get out.
Do they pay dividends?
Dude, I don't know. I don't even look at that.
So has value investing, or I mean, I'm new to the game. My understanding was originally you invested or bought the stock in a company because they paid you a dividend, so there was some value to it. You weren't speculating that it was some kind of asset that was going to appreciate. And it seems like now, unless I'm incorrect, and I hope somebody could correct me if I was, that you're just buying these stocks with the perspective that they're going to appreciate. Is that correct?
We got a guy named Journalist that we want to introduce you to. And his buddy
dividends
Luce.
or growth
His
are
buddy Luce.
I didn't buy the stock. I just bought options because I don't do it the whole. I'm gonna buy it and see if it's gonna be good at the so and so time. I just want to make my money and get out.
Do keep in mind many people here are just looking to make some quick money over a very short period with something they think might happen for reasons.
Wait,
So,
absolutely. I get that, and I'm absolutely behind that. I'm here for the same reason, to get insight and hear people's takes on why this might happen or that might happen in the stock market. I'm just curious if that is generally the shift has been away from the expectation that a company's shares are going to pay dividends or some kind of inherent benefit from holding the share, to an entirely speculative asset class where you're buying it because you're speculating that it will increase or decrease in value. You're using leverage to try and increase exponentially the return. But those are two different things, right?
I think what it has to do, yeah, exactly. It has to do with the fact that you're on Wall Street Bets, where we're looking at more short term and quick plays, where we want to make plays off of volatility. That's why you hear a lot of talk about options in that, and not so much just hard shares of stock. But
you need to go to like
definitely people out there that
investing or something like that if you want those dividend stocks, man. I mean, that's not really what we do here.
and there's nothing wrong with those. Just understand the reason you hear so much of that talk here is that's our crowd. If you're on our investing, you'd hear about long-term plays. If you're on our dividends, they would just be bragging about how they make $100 a year off their shares and dividends. It's just the crowd. It's not that people have a shift. You're just hearing from a biased subgroup.
That's a great point. But also it doesn't preclude that we don't have we have portfolios with other shit in it, right? I have big dividend yielding.
Hey, I mean, Zim was a great one, for example.
QYLD. So one I really like.
Yeah, but we generally don't share that on this call because it's not what people are listening for. They want to hear, hey, SPY's going to go up 4% and this is why. Buy those 0 DTEs. That's just the audience.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get it. And I understand. I'm just trying to understand, like, the question I want to understand from y'all's perspective is, if you're buying a stock in something like Northrop Grumman, Lockheed, it doesn't pay a dividend. And this is not, maybe this is the wrong place to ask the question, but why are you buying the stock if it doesn't pay a dividend? Is that, I mean, it would just be because the expectation that it will either increase in value or it will decrease in value?
Yeah, just of course to flip it.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's all I wanted. That's all I wanted to know. I made the question more difficult than it had to be. Thank you.
Now, speaking of Northrop Grumman, I did post a article about these gas lines getting blown up, and it looks like things might be accelerating because it seems other countries are getting involved in Russia-Ukraine business, which is not good. So it looks like things are accelerating, and there's some pretty good comments in that post that I got back. There were some that were not so good, but it's looking like the possibility of an accident is completely out the window. The possibility of a false flag attack is I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying pragmatically, the next step for Russia would be to counterattack whoever they think is blowing this thing up, and that would be an acceleration. And it's probably going to come soon.
Keep in mind, nations have a way to manage these things to look good without starting wars. When the U.S. killed that high-ranking Iraqi general, Iran, sorry, just attacked a military base after first calling the U.S. and saying, hey, we need to hit a military base. You killed a high-ranking official. Which one can we target, and how quick can you evacuate it? So nations have ways of playing this out where they can make it look good for their people and not start a world war. And none of these countries want to start a East-West world war right now.
I agree, but do you think that it might be different circumstances? Because America, Iraq, the Middle East in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you said that. I have to agree 100%. There's a huge power disparity between any of the countries in the Middle East, with possibly the exception of Saudi Arabia and Russia. This is not an isolated incident. This is Nord Stream pipeline is much more significant than General Soleimani.
I think Vladimir Putin, like most world leaders, above all else, values his wealth and power and influence. And if he feels that he's not going to launch nukes at Sweden to get even if it finds out it was Sweden, just to start a world war and get his house bombed. Let's put it that way.
Why are we saying Sweden? Isn't
I
all
just
the
picked
evidence
a random NATO nation.
Oh,
okay,
of all
but
countries,
it was
Sweden?
Britain. All the evidence is pointed to Britain. I thought that was pretty clear.
No, it's not clear. And I'm an innocent until proven guilty kind of guy. But
absolutely. But why? I'm just wondering why I threw Sweden out there when we have evidence pointing to Britain.
I just picked a nearby NATO nation. But whatever, the Britain.
I'm telling you, have you listened to ABBA's songs backwards? Super satanic.
But anyway, it seems like things are ramping up instead of ramping down, which is specifically what they said they were trying to do. They were trying to end the conflict, and then you have this Poland thing, and like we already stated, it took way too long to diffuse the tension, and now this pipeline being blown up.
So yeah, war is going to happen, right? That's what you're saying. You're arguing it's likely that now that this is not even possibly considered an accident, there should be an escalation.
I'm saying that the planned de-escalation is not going very well. As a matter of fact, it's going in the opposite direction.
Look, if you want to bet on like a Lockheed or something off this, by all means go for it. But if you think like World War III is coming, it doesn't matter what you buy at that point, right? You can buy SPY for all it matters. It's pointless. Your money's going to be whatever.
If I may for a sec. What we saw with the whole Poland thing, it looked bad for a split second, but the only people that panicked were us and the media. Believe it or not, the people involved, NATO, Poland, Russia, Ukraine, they did a really good job at avoiding escalating something until they knew what was happening.
I think aside from circle jerking journalists who just want to be first, there was never really anything to panic about. What was the it was so unlikely that Russia, in the position it is in now with winter coming, was going to launch missiles into Poland. At worst case scenario, Russia had intended to launch those missiles. They'd come off course without any interference by Ukrainian anti-air defense and had landed in Poland. I still don't see a scenario where that would have ever led anyone to believe, hey, look, here's the reason we're looking for to cause World War III.
Exactly. Zero chance that could have happened. And if Russia intended for it to happen, if they would have, it would have been like think about it. They're starting World War III, so they'd be hellfire. It wouldn't be a fucking stray missile that kills two people accidentally. It's totally bullshit.
So again, focusing back on plays, because we were talking about this pipeline explosion, if you think it's going to lead to at least a perception of tensions, then any of the military stocks will be fine, right? Because it just needs to be perceived that something will happen, and you can play that for the short term.
Well, what do you think about this? My understanding, and I'm not trying to get into an argument about my belief in conspiracies. I don't listen to the songs backwards anymore. If the United States is kind of trying to orient itself, General Miley came out, Miley, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, but he came out and he said basically, the time we need to start having peace talks, right? And there's been various back and forths between all the parties involved about whether or not peace should be on the table and it shouldn't be on the table. And I think Vladimir Zelensky, as well as Vladimir Putin, and people representing the United States, including Biden, have said various things about it. But if Britain is the responsible party for the Nord Stream pipeline, what are the chances that right now the United States is positioning itself so that it can distance itself from this conflict? It can say, hey, we need to sue for peace. You got Kherson back, right? There's no reason to make this any worse than it already is. You've already lost, 70% of your power grid. Russia has shown the capacity to continue attacking. We're going into winter. And the United States is going to try and, play the, hey, let's make peace now. We've done everything we can. Let's make the best of a bad situation. And then the UK, who may or may not have done what it did, believing it had NATO support, is now left holding the bag for having bombed the Nord Stream pipeline and becomes a convenient fall guy.
So, again, trying to keep it a little more place focused. If you believe that peace talks are coming, I would bet heavily on things like commodities dropping, oil, especially natural gas, things that Russia can send out. You should be betting heavily against those. If you believe in peace talks, so that's kind of where I would shift my focus if you're thinking about peace out of this war, is the stuff that Russia could sell to Europe should, in theory, go down, if for no other reason than the market will assume that Russia can now sell it to Europe again.
We are all now war experts. Yeah, I mean, if we were all if this whole chat was in a war room, who would be the general?
Oh, it'd have to be simple.
Oh, no, you're right.
No, Simple would be a private, but he would just get to tell everyone what to do because he would yell loud enough anyway, and we would just kind of do it.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm bringing the greatest military mind we have, the best genius of WSB journalist.
Party would be intelligence officer.
Is opinion going to be our ambassador trying to negotiate peace or lack thereof?
Opinion would be in the corner screaming about veterans.
Hey, can I ask an economic question? I think it's related to stocks.
Oh yes, please.
What is the ideal situation for the United States as far as our stock market is concerned? Are we standing to benefit from a protracted sanction against Russian exports?
America benefits by shipping their liquid natural gas to Europe instead of having it be supplied by Russia.
And I think it's also we benefit from the fear of war because we trade our arms for favors. That's why I'm long Raytheon and Halliburton and all that. It's nothing to do with it. Are we going to war or not? That's the fear of war is real for those people over there.
Is this all being approached without the idea that there's some kind of currency crisis looming over the horizon? Obviously some of the Mises Institute guys would believe, hey, look, you can't print $5 trillion into existence and then expect that everything's going to be fine. And that, or is that the expectation that that's not really something that needs to be taken into account? The markets have already priced that in.
I think
$5
the
trillion?
vast majority.
$80 trillion was spent just on COVID, and then another $50 trillion was spent for a stimulus.
50 trillion?
Yeah, the numbers are outrageous, but there isn't going to be a currency crisis as long as the entire world keeps on trading oil in dollars.
And I think that's part of it is we don't have to be good financially if the world's worse. We just have to be the best out of the group. We don't have to be actually stable. We just have to be better than everybody else.
Well, from your learned perspective, and I don't mean that sarcastically at all, my understanding was that the United States exports dollars and imports goods because of our sweetheart deal following Bretton Woods with OPEC. And hasn't that changed? Well, I mean, I could have misread a headline or something, but my understanding was that Saudi Arabia, they were saying, not only did they have a problem with going by Biden's request to fix the price, but that they were going to stop solely accepting dollars for oil. Did I mishear that?
I mean, personally, I don't follow the oil market quite close enough, so I'm not familiar with the headline. I don't know if anyone else is.
Nope, I misspoke. $4.5 trillion. Okay.
Well, if it's true, hypothetically, if it's true that the U.S., I mean, isn't that the strength of the U.S. dollar? That's why we used to call it the petrodollar. That when we're able to enjoy the benefit as a nation of exporting dollars because other countries have to buy them if they want to access those markets for oil. So if that were to change,
no, there's definitely truth to that statement. That's why OPEC is angry at the Fed, because the Fed is raising rates and they're getting their budgets and margins tightened because the Fed isn't printing more dollars. And yes, they do need more dollars printed.
and I guess no one else has heard of that, whatever it was that I thought I read. I'll try to find it, but I was very certain about a couple of months ago.
Yeah, you're thinking of dollarization and the milkshake theory.
No. I'm not thinking about that. There was a headline, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, and this was about the time, BRICS was being talked about pretty frequently, that Saudi Arabia was talking to other countries and saying, hey, we've got it in the works to try, we're going to start accepting other currencies for oil.
That's correct. There's the BRICS countries that are possibly looking at using the Chinese yuan as another currency for oil, as well as the Chinese initiative, like their Silk Road initiative. They're probably not going to be using dollars for the trading goods and services in the new Silk Road initiative that they have going on. They're probably going to use a different currency. So the BRICS countries we're talking about looking for something to replace the dollar as the leading currency for buying and selling oil.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, and there's also the IMF banknotes, and then speaking of Bitcoin, there's an experimental crypto dollar that is being is going through a trial period right now. If you want me to put on my tinfoil hat, there are some theories out there that believe that America is purposefully destroying the dollar so that they can usher in a new world savior currency that would be based on a blockchain with a centralized exchange.
Okay, yeah, and so to tie that to the stock market, right? To tie it to betting, what is the integration like? Because you've got to onboard.
The value of the biggest thing obviously is foreign exchange markets. So you've got world currencies competing against each other for their intrinsic value. So you'll notice that the dollar has just been on a tear lately, and then Japan's currency is suffering. So the way that you would take that and make money off of it is by buying low and selling high foreign exchange currencies.
Wouldn't that happen?
I think that's a good argument for why it isn't even, if you put the tinfoil hat on, it's not something that's being originated in the United States. I mean, because how could you achieve that in one nation if all of these other nations were able to engage in arbitrage against it, right? So I think it would have to be something from a much higher perspective, right? Some kind of tinfoil hat, new world order, ledger kind of thing, wouldn't it? I mean, if you did have the United States, you said, hey, we're going to put out a cryptocurrency, right? A central bank digital currency, which is, as somebody alluded to it, they're doing a 12-month trial run. JP Morgan has just patented the JP Morgan wallet name. they say, hey, so look, so now United States dollars, and this is what I'm really curious about, is how do you onboard these people? But you get them onboarded, right? And of course, one of the best ways to onboard people is to give them free money. You know, you have more handouts when the recession hits. That's tinfoil hat. But you get all these people on board. But why are people going to continue? And if the only nation doing it is the United States, how does that work in the foreign currency market? Right? Are you not able to trade these tokens outside of the nation?
You do understand that, like, there's a few things I'd like to comment on here. Firstly, one, the Federal Reserve's entire job is to control U.S. monetary policy, and it's led by an entire team of economists that have PhDs from Ivy Leagues, and they listen to other councils of economists that also have PhDs from other schools, and they vote, right? I mean, that's what the Fed does. Secondly, as far as crypto goes, the U.S. is behind the 8 ball, guys. Central bank digital currency pilots have been done in Europe for years, for literally years. And China has been piloting digital currencies for the last, I think, 2. And Europe has been doing it since 2017. Look up smart bonds. So, I mean, it's America is the last, like one of the last people to the game. I mean, we're playing catch up here in the crypto space.
So what I'm hearing is calls on Reynolds.
Calls on Reynolds? What?
Yeah, the aluminum foil.
Oh no, I mean I'm just I'm just talking facts here about how far behind we are in the cryptocurrency game compared to other nations. I mean,
I'm just
Australia
saying
has
that guy said tinfoil hat so many times. It's like maybe I should buy some.
It was actually a big ploy by Big Aluminum to just keep putting that into our head with the occasional tinfoil hat sentence.
Why they put aluminum in our deodorant?
No. So what does that mean for us on the ground, Scald? Like when it comes to these central bank digital currencies, is there really anything that we need to care about, or is one day the switch going to be flipped and we're all on some blockchain or something?
That's probably what's going to happen. At some point, your dollars will just be all central bank digital currency.
Neat. I will still be poor.
I do think there will be. Sorry, I do think there will be more control of the fractional reserve rate because they'll have better transparency.
Breaking news: Carvana's down 10%.
Is there anybody who thinks you'd be able to deposit crypto in your bank account in the next 5 years?
You mean like with a crypto wallet?
Well, I mean like at your standard bank, just walk in and deposit through a crypto wallet or whatever method.
I would guess
Bank
if
of
it's
America
tied to like
will
Bank of
everyone
America and Merrill
Merrill
Lynch are tied, all right? You could just deposit it through that.
I mean, I'm hopeful for that.
Well, can't you trade crypto in Merrill Lynch? Yes, right. So if you can do that and you have a Bank of America account linked to your Merrill Lynch account, which everybody does who has a Merrill Lynch, then I guess you could just do a transaction in Bitcoin and move it to fiat, and fiat's in your checking account. Just take it out of your Bank of America checking account. I guess I never tried.
And then when do you think the time is going to be when you can pay for gas with crypto?
Skull, don't you have a crypto.com credit card or something?
I use that for offboarding, but digital assets are a big thing, and in like the finance space,
Sounds like he's.
Sorry, I got a kiddo here.
Skull, you got to get tighter duct tape.
He's that comic pizza ping pong or whatever that place Alex Jones conspiratized about.
All right. So sorry about that. Wife is now on duty for a second while I give some insights here. So, I mean, digital assets are becoming increasingly increasingly large part of the financial system. Merrill Lynch, Fidelity. Fidelity has an entire digital assets division where they have hundreds of employees looking at crypto and how to integrate it with retirement accounts. So, I mean, I think institutions are really in the crypto space as of the last halvening. So over the last 3 years, we've seen a lot more institutional interest than before. And if you look at PricewaterhouseCoopers' survey of hedge funds, 4 years ago was the first time they did the survey, and there was only around 200 or so that were crypto hedge funds. Now there's over 780 hedge funds that are completely devoted to crypto. But the most interesting thing about this year's report is 70% of traditional hedge funds, the like 11,000 regular hedge funds that are out there, say they're interested in adding crypto at some point in the near future.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about the crypto side of things. I have a couple of friends in the space. I'm about 2 degrees away from one of the creators of Ethereum. And I can say that generally in the space, it's true that the US is behind in experimenting in some of those cryptos. But the reality is when you have the backing of the entire US military for your currency, the US dollar, generally you don't need to worry so much about dominance until someone else develops a technology that is proven to be sufficiently scalable and secure. And so actually there are a number of companies still struggling with that. We can see there's a massive problems, whether it's with liquidity, like the FTX collapse, or with other variants of issues like security.
So I was, one of the things I was talking about was smart bonds. So this was something that I was consulting with various governments on in 2016. So smart bonds are just bonds that are issued by governments but are on the chain. And if you just could do a quick Google, you will see that there are over almost 24 countries now are doing their bond issuance on the blockchain in some capacity, or at least have pilot programs to do that. So, I mean, I do think that there's something to be said for integrating the technology versus competing against it.
Right, absolutely. And I'm not trying to suggest that there won't be some sort of utility there. But what I'm suggesting is that it's not going to be the hype that people keep playing it up to be. I think that there's definitely a lot of muddied waters as to the expectations that people have on cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies do have tangible value when you actually dive into the technologies, but I think a lot of times you have those fuckers like, the Big Connect bitch and, all that shit going on. And you just have a ton of bad information out there about what crypto can and cannot do, who the competitors are, who wins and who doesn't.
Yeah, I just think that we're going to start seeing increasing adoption of nation states in the next cycle. So after 2024, I think we'll start to see increasing adoption of nation states. And I do think that the large currencies like Ethereum and Bitcoin will become players in that space. They already are. And like they were the first, they were sort of the first there. So I think as we see more and more people roll out central bank digital currencies, the interface between existing cryptos and CBDCs, that'll be the real question that has to be answered in the next cycle. So 2024 and on, I think is when we'll see a lot of innovation there.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening, considering there are pretty high risks of a recession happening in 2023. So if you look at the economic recovery pattern, right, by 2024, everybody's been scared shitless out of crypto. People have lost all their money, and that's when actually the things that have real utility start coming back up. Not like, all right, don't shit on me, but not like Dogecoin.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Dogecoin has a lower inflationary rate than the global average currently. So they're inflating at a rate of 3.4 per year. And right now, global average inflation is slightly above 10%. So I think that's kind of humorous that it is a lower inflating currency than a lot of the global basket. But I mean, the utility, right? That's the question: is what's the utility of Doge? And Doge was made as sort of a joke many years ago by Billy Marcus, and so it lacks a lot of that essential utility that we see in something like Ethereum, where they're constantly developing new things, and they're if you look at the multi-year plan for Ethereum, there's a lot of innovation that is planned from the Ethereum Foundation that's going to get rolled out to that entire chain.
Well, is that 10% figure dependent on like countries printing more money, or is that inflation relative to goods and services?
That's inflation relative to goods and services. The global average is 10.1%. It was a little over 8% 6 months ago, and it continued to rise. So we've got high inflation in everything from the British pound to the yuan to look at the Turkish lira. That thing's falling off a cliff. They're damn near hyperinflation. I mean, they're getting up there like 70% or something crazy. So, I mean, we're just seeing it globally, and the dollar continues to strengthen. So it's one of those things where you don't have to be you don't have to be the you don't have to beat the bear in a fight. You just have to not be the slowest person running from it. And the Federal Reserve has ensured that the U.S. dollar is definitely at the head of the pack running from inflation globally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's all like a balance of levers to pull between interest rates and currency value. I'm just not sure the comparison to cryptocurrency inflation is accurate there, because like then I'm sure relative to when Elon Musk said Doge to $1, that purchasing power of Dogecoin has eroded fairly substantially. But I'm curious. People are still out there banging on the drum of Doge to $1, other than, Carolyn from Alameda Research, who is should, or at least I hope she's not trading anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just commenting on the fact that in the last 2 years, 80% of all dollars in circulation came into circulation. So, Jerome the Printer Powell was really firing those puppies up. Yet, of all the Doge in circulation, only 3.4% of it is going to be created in the next year. So it's inflating at I'm just talking about the total circulating supply of the currency is smaller. That's really what I was getting at.
I'm curious, what was it before the printers turned on? Like what is the US dollar, how does that money supply grow in typical, normal years? Because I'm sure everyone can agree that nothing in the past 3-4 years was at all normal.
Oh yeah, I mean, the typical growth rate is, if you look at the Fed, I mean, the Fred, Fred, puts out data on this for the Fed. And if you look at the Fred charts on the US dollar, it was a slow and steady increase in the circulating supply until we hit the pandemic. And then it's a notable spike. Not GME level spike, but it's a clear spike.
Sorry, I'm just looking up the data now, and yeah. I mean, like, it's a pretty consistent trend. I think that obviously started after 2008 with their quantitative easing, but I mean, even just looking at the slope of this, that's fairly steep. I need to find the rates somewhere. But anywho, I didn't mean to take up the conversation with that.
So I was an early adopter of Bitcoin. I bought one for $25. Yeah. I lost it. But it came out at a time Ben Bernanke was in charge, and people were super afraid of inflation. I think this was around 2012, 2011. And it was supposed to be a hedge against inflation because the whole way it was sold to me was that there was a limited supply. There couldn't be any more inflation. All they could do is just take the supply and like cut it into smaller pieces, but not actually make more of it. So they couldn't inject supply side economics to it.
Wait, real quick, you lost the password, or when you say you lost it, skip to that part.
You gonna make me relive this? No, I'm just kidding. But
No,
yeah,
just tell me if it was a password. I'm just curious.
no, my hard drive broke. It just frizzled out, and then I went and dug into it with one of those recovery things, and I got the file that I needed, but I just couldn't. It was damaged. I also bought Doge. I also bought $20 of Doge back in 2005. No, 2015.
Sorry, it's 2005 made me laugh.
Was that even a recordable number with the amount of Doge you could get for $20 in 2015?
Yeah, it's probably a ton of Doge.
It was a ton of Doge.
Did they just put an infinity sign or just write like all the coin and just call it a day?
Just a big moon.
Now those I don't have anymore either. Those got stolen because I was an idiot.
No.
I think another thing we will see between now and 2024, I think the real innovation we're going to see in the crypto space is its integration into the gaming sphere. With more and more, I mean, listen, if you're a gamer, you're already living your life in a digital space anyway, right? So, it's sort of natural that it would come into that space. And we've seen this. The floor price has fallen out of Bored Apes. A bunch of other NFT projects are heavily beaten down. But the volume and frequency of sales in gaming NFTs, it's barely down. While the rest of the market has been slaughtered, people are still buying NFTs related to games pretty frequently. So, I mean, I think that's a compelling story and something to watch in crypto over the next calendar year.
So calls on Meta.
The guy who had the Bitcoin and Doge, I just want to say you are like the Michael Larson of cryptocurrency.
Going back to what Mr. Spoiler said earlier about Bitcoin being resistant to inflation, that is true. I agree with that, and I think that still is in a way fundamentally at its core. But the issue is that Bitcoin has been exposed to a lot of speculation over the years. A lot of equity and hedge funds have invested in it. A lot of large firms who have used it for things other than a hedge against inflation. And that's why we go and see its huge amounts of volatility and swings and other related stuff. But we go and look at I think it's like the 10-year trend for Bitcoin, the trend line for it. We go and find that like Bitcoin's price, its floor, it's like 10-year support, kind of lies around about $15,000, and that is probably a more realistic price for it if you're just looking at it as a pure inflation play.
So this is going to be a little bit. This is going to be a little bit of a stupid question because I'm not super crypto aware. Are there? Because I know we're talking about the NFT market, blah blah blah. Are there like a basketball card, baseball card equivalent of a crypto? Like, is it that type of thing? Do you get what I'm saying? Like comic books, like first edition comic book NFT. Like, is that also a market that they're in? I'm assuming so.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Dapper Labs. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to use the NFT example, but you probably have a better technical understanding.
I was just going to say, if you look at like Dapper Labs and their NBA cards, yes. You look at Topps, they print cards. They're getting into the NFT space pretty bigly. If you think about non-fungibility in our daily lives, we spend a lot of time making things non-fungible. You have a name and a birth year, but you also have a social security number to make you more non-fungible, right? More unique. You might have a car, but it also has a VIN number. You might have a home address, but it also has a zip code. So we spend a lot of time in our daily lives making things non-fungible and more unique. And, functionally, that's what NFTs are doing with on-chain assets. At the highest level, sort of like the most abstract level, it's just making something, non-fungible. And we do that all the time with physical goods, with our own identities, with our own addresses. So, I mean, there's definitely a use case there. How that will roll out in the digital space, I think we're just beginning to see the applications of that technology. Did that answer your question, Rad? Or sorry.
Yeah, it answered my question. Like I said, I have very little understanding of crypto, to be honest, but I know we have several very smart crypto people here.
Yeah, for me, the idea of a corporate-backed crypto use case like GME is huge. And then you have the government-backed use case of things like social security numbers, your DMV information. These are all things that should be put on the blockchain so they can't be counterfeited, which is what I find the biggest benefit.
So one thing you do want to be concerned about is liquidity, because what you'll see in the past couple of years is that it's been mostly larger institutions who own the vast majority of most of these cryptos. Whether you're talking about, say, Cardano, XRP, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of them have a high percentage that are owned by basically what we would traditionally consider potentially market makers. And so if you do want to talk about decentralization, then the conversation has to start becoming, well, do these larger institutional whales who own large portions of these things actually help to decentralize it? Or are they just being centralized under a bunch of rich fucks again?
Yeah, that's a very fair concern and something we've seen. Like, just look at Solana. It was like Solana was like 90% owned by venture capital groups. It was nuts.
Oh yeah, no. Solana was a shit show. It has been, and I'd say definitely buyer beware of that.
Just in case any of you are following the World Cup, just to let you know, the score for the match between England and Iran was England 6, Iran 2, full time.
With plus 16 minutes added on.
Was that total stoppage time or just the stoppage time at the very end?
That was second half stoppage time.
Holy cow! I didn't know it could go up that high.
When's the USA play today?
I will see you all later. Y'all have an
USA
amazing
plays
day.
Wales 1 p.m. Eastern.
Thank you.
Bye, Scald.
Yeah, I didn't mean to talk over Scald's exit, but Scald is probably one of my favorite crypto speakers that we have because he's able to make it, market related.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot easier these days than back in the 2017, 2018 era, where we've got like Coinbase, Mara, Riot, others that are actually related. It's kind of cool to see how big the crypto scene has grown.
I just remember a few years ago, I was talking to a family member. He's like, "You're young. How does crypto trading work?"
I'm actually, for what little knowledge I have on crypto, getting slightly bullish on it only because this whole FTX washout thing feels a lot like the .com bubble from the 90s. And while it sucked when it happened, afterwards, the companies that remained did quite well.
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish on
So the question
Coinbase
is,
based on, sorry to interject, I was just trying to tie back the NFT conversation to like a possible market play. I think Coinbase, because of the amount of regulation they faced getting into the market, was prevented from stepping in a lot of dog shit that FTX and these other companies were able to basically spin up funds around. So we will lose out on these platforms where you're getting 10 to 15% returns by staking different cryptocurrency. I think more people will look to Bitcoin as a store of value and gain equity off of staking their Bitcoin on a platform like Coinbase and gaining like a 5% annualized yield that way. And we'll see more of the the investors be looking at basically Ethereum as their smart contracts. So I think that if you're bullish on crypto, you should only be looking at places like Coinbase where they're regulated.
So why Coinbase though?
Coinbase is the Kleenex of cryptocurrency for a lot of the mom and pop investors. From 2012 to 2017, there were so many Thanksgiving and Christmas conversations about cryptocurrency where within the next year, those same 50 to 60-year-olds who were asking about Bitcoin because they saw Kramer talk about it or they saw some CNBC report on it, had Coinbase accounts. They had their passwords stored. They understood that they had to pay taxes on it. They understood how much they could sell because they had talked to their accountant. Like, people learned very quickly when it was running from, 12K to 69K. And they understand it's a volatile asset. They understand that they can't put their entire retirement savings into it, but they want to be exposed to it.
So are you in marketing for Coinbase? I'm not. I'm just confused because you said about this. Like you said, this is the Kleenex of crypto. I mean, so it's branded. This is
that's just how
a Band-Aid.
Like when I started in crypto, I was like looking at, oh, well, how do I exchange on Paxful? Like I would walk to CVS, send a money order to some guy in Africa, get my crypto that way. So like it took 5 or 6 years before I could get my parents into crypto because it took a regulated entity where they were going through all the KYC verification. Whereas like I didn't want to expose my name or my driver's license or do any of those things. So I think just to me, it's easier to see, the brand that people trust or refer to their exchange as like, oh, is it like a Coinbase, rather than just saying what it actually is.
Yeah, so the branding, like you said, Kleenex or a Band-Aid or whatever. Yeah, okay, I got it. So anyway, so I'm looking at Coinbase. I'm a Coinbase customer. I'm thinking about getting off the platform, so that's why I'm asking you these questions. But Coinbase, it looks like it's almost it's at $41. It's 42. Its 52-week low is $40. And the high is $335. So just as a swing trader, why would I buy Coinbase?
I don't think it's a swing trade. I think that if you're bullish on crypto and the cycle we're talking about for crypto, like Scott said, has us looking out at getting gains not until like 2024. We're basically on a cycle where the FTX thing has to shake out. They still haven't called him to Capitol Hill. Like the whole trial that's going to unfold over the next month is going to be a big dip for us to buy into. And I think that if you think regulated crypto or centralized crypto exchanges survive this winter, then your best institutional bet is Coinbase.
Got it. Okay, I see what you're saying. So if you're banking on, I don't know. I think frankly, I think FTX. I think all of them are you're betting on whether or not the platform's going to survive. I don't give a shit about that. I care about my Bitcoin, right? And I think I look at all of the different cryptos and I say Bitcoin's the one I've put money into. That's all I give a shit about, right? And staking that, and that's it. So I'm cool with that. I mean, I could put it in a cold wallet and other options, but that's why I'm asking. But I see what you're saying. If you're banking on any one of these surviving, Coinbase is the one. and it would be, government regulated. Okay, gotcha. Thanks for explaining that.
Coinbase, and there's also Binance, but they're not publicly traded.
I really think you would have to wait for the FTX thing to shake out in court. CZ signaled on CNBC that he wants to acquire these exchanges that are going under, but he doesn't want the messiness right now. So he's waiting for the courts to basically figure out which creditors are getting paid, which assets are up for sale. And then I think Binance will be a big purchaser of a lot of these different exchanges, or even just trying to acquire their customer base. But he's been really dodgy about expanding his footprint in the US, and I think it's because he doesn't want to be as heavily scrutinized as the next exchange coming in after this FTX fallout.
Hi guys, can you all hear me okay? Hello?
I can hear you.
Great, thanks. So just a question, like, don't you guys have Binance in the US? There's a website and the exchange Binance.us.
We have Binance, yeah.
Okay, no. So that was just a follow-up question to what the other guy mentioned, that you don't have Binance in the US. The other question I just had was, I don't know if any of you here end up using decentralized exchanges as opposed to, the centralized exchanges like FTX, Coinbase, and things like that. So if you guys end up using decentralized exchanges and you keep your fiat and your crypto on like cold wallets or sort of like hot wallets, but not like on centralized exchanges, how do you guys end up paying taxes on that, or how are they calculated?
You'll have to ask your CPA those kind of questions.
Well, I'm not from the US, so I just thought that if anyone here is maybe using decentralized exchanges, maybe you guys had an idea.
So you're asking U.S. citizens how we pay taxes on our
Yeah. I'm not trying
we're
to
not
be
here
a
for
dick,
that.
but we're not trying to give you CPA advice here.
Well, I'm
mean,
not asking CPA advice.
just so you're aware, most Americans don't know how they pay their taxes. We just go on like TurboTax and do the free software and hope it's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think crypto taxation has been like constantly evolving, and I'm kind of surprised. And maybe this actually does exist. I'm just not aware. But I'm kind of surprised that no big tax software has come out, because it just seems like something that's rapidly changing and constantly quite challenging for a lot of people. So I think people do the best they can, but it changes like every year.
Well, the challenge isn't doing the taxes, because you report it just like any other asset that you buy and sell that you have gains and losses on. The challenge is, like, if you do a lot of trading and you're buying it, then there's like fractions of a Bitcoin that you buy, and just keeping track of all that is a bookkeeping nightmare. So if there was something that could tie into your ledger or your blockchain to get that information automatically, it would make things a lot simpler. Otherwise, you got to track it manually, and it's a pain in the ass. I've done it.
Well, the alternative is that, since users are KYCing anyways, that the platform just reports to the government on your behalf, and they just auto-populate it.
But they don't know. The problem is that when you pay taxes on crypto, you pay taxes when you convert crypto from one to another. So in other words, if you're just trading Bitcoin, going from a Bitcoin wallet to a Bitcoin wallet, it's not a taxable event. If you're trading Bitcoin for US dollars, that's a taxable event. And the exchanges have no way of knowing when you're sending it somewhere. Like, you can even send it between one wallet or another, and they treat it as a buy and a sell on that date at that price. So in other words, if I send crypto from Coinbase or Bitcoin from Coinbase to my cold storage wallet, they treat that as a sale, even though it went to another Bitcoin address, and it's a non-taxable event.
Absolutely makes sense. Does that answer your question, Redditor?
Yes, it does. It does. Thank you, Opinion.
No worries. It wasn't me that answered it, but glad to take the credit. What else we got? We're about an hour and a half post talk or post market open. I see that Hardy's Disney Play has paid out handsomely if he entered that at market open. So very good job on him and anyone who followed. Any other thoughts, or should we wrap it up
Can you
here?
recap
Oh yeah,
what that play was? I heard
sure.
you speaking
So
about it, but I didn't catch it.
he saw Disney pop about a 10 or 11% on Bob Iger coming back in as CEO, replacing Chapek. During Chapek's tenure, the stock went down 40%. And so I think he bought near dated puts. And if he held those, then I mean the stock's down now. It was plus 6% when I last looked, and I think now it's plus 5.75%. So probably down like 4 or 5% since he bought them. If he bought them at open, and so yeah, that's the play.
The vast majority of the market is down, though, right?
He also talked about selling puts, like a 15 strike for a potential upside. I think I didn't catch that one though.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one either. Selling, yeah, I'm not too sure. What other plays were mentioned today that could be acted upon? Oh, the Tesla 180 puts. I'm sure those are still printing well.
Carvana puts, how are they doing?
Oh wow,
Carvana was
Tesla's down to
down on the
132.
open, right?
Carvana's down 12%, but I haven't paid attention to how much the IV is impacting all that because it was crazy high IV for a while. Probably still is.
Was there any big event for Carvana, or is this just?
It's
I will
still the
say,
fact. So with Carvana,
anecdotally,
you
they're
had
starting
them.
to close out. Sorry.
Sorry,
So,
gentlemen, go ahead.
so we're doing DGen first.
No, okay, fine. Sorry, you go, Weep. Sorry about that.
All right. So Carvana, obviously, they had that really bad earnings report, and then they had a bit of a pump after they crashed down. I can't remember how bad it got. I think it went down like 20% or something in a day,
Yeah.
and then they pumped back up to like $13 or $15, and now they're sliding back down. So it's just people realizing that they're a terrible company and they're going to go bankrupt.
They ran very hard off of that great CPI day when SPY ran, which was likely just, I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it, just the market was going up. They followed it, and then some shorts had to cover as it moved up, and then it stopped, and now it's going back to where it should be.
I see you have a very strong opinion on Carvana. It's good though. I think a lot of people who had puts were a little bit too aggressive with saying it will go down to like 2.5%, $2.50 or like $1. Situation's dire, but it's not that dire. Another thing that was talked a lot about was ASTS. I think that's now down pretty significantly, but people who got in, when it was first being mentioned, I think had the chance to sell for a fair gain, and I think that's exactly what the that Weeb guy did on like Discord. I think came out with like $1 million. Pretty good haul for him at 22.
And I hate to say this, but unfortunately, that Weeb guy is not me.
Oh, well, you're not 22 living in Canada with your parents? Not
No,
that there's
I'm
anything wrong with that.
27 living in Tennessee with my parents.
Oh, well, you just got to find the next big stock before anyone else does and share it with us. How hard could that be?
Grinder's down like almost 17% at this point.
Ooh, damn.
It's not shocking.
pretty
A lot of
placid.
these things pop off the D-SPAC and then normalize. It'll have another big hit in 6 months when all those locked shares open up.
SPY is down like 60 basis points. So I wonder what's keeping the market up. It's not Apple. Apple's down 2%. Microsoft's pretty much flat. What else we got?
Do you remember last year at this time when all the liquidity started to exit the market? Like Bezos, Elon, they just took as much liquidity out of their shares that they could. And I just wonder if we're going to have any major signals like that going into the recession.
I'm still waiting for my Santa rally.
So right now, I think it's a pretty dangerous playing field. If you look at the opens and closes, you'll see there's lots of really big gaps on SPY right now. So it does seem like market makers are just kind of waiting to see where liquidity is so they can hunt it. Right before we get to the FOMC, December 15th talk, hopefully Powell can drill things down with the 75 basis points again. But I mean, yeah, there could be a potential Santa rally up until that point.
Sorry, I missed that if that was direct at me. What did you just say, Humbly?
So long story short, if you look at SPY, you can see a lot of the open and closes had pretty big gaps on several of the days recently. And so what it does seem like is that market makers are basically just trying to hunt liquidity. So there is this potential for maybe a Santa rally, right? So that you basically force a lot of the puts to close their positions or get, just paper hands. And then you steal those from them once you have the drill down with the FOMC. Well, because Powell comes out, right? He says 75 basis points again. Everybody says, oh, well, we expected 50 basis points. And then you end the year basically trying to do tax loss harvesting, right? Because you've got to get out before the year end if you don't want to pay those taxes.
If Powell says 75, this market is going to get obliterated. It is very priced in for 50 right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have some amount of expectation that it's going to be 75, but yeah, you're right. It could just be 50. I mean, with the slowdown and whatnot. But I mean, again, you look at it and it's still up, what, 7.7% or something? And yeah, sure, it's a lagging indicator, but come on, we're trying to hit what, target 2%?
The Fed has done a lot of hinting that it's going to be 50. Like a lot of their speak has been putting that way. So if it's 75, the market is going to freak out.
What are the odds right now that it's 50 versus 75? Does anybody know that? Don't they have odds in Vegas odds for that?
Well, it sounds like it's more closer to 50 basis points at this point.
See, I disagree. I think it's closer to 75 only because if it's 50, that's the pivot to everything, right? So once the Fed lays off and stops 75, goes to 50, everybody says it's over, right? Everything's behind us. We're moving forward. 6 more months. We're past all this. They're not going to do that shit. It's going to be 75. And we're not pivoting before the end of the year.
Yeah, because they want to see the layoffs happen, right?
Right. You want to have holiday layoffs. You want to have a bad end of the retail year for the season, and then when the companies report, they not only report their shit year end, but they're going to report their last wave of layoffs that we talked about, and then you move through to a shitty 2023, the recession, and then you bounce out of it. That's the only way it can happen.
Yeah. So the article I found is saying 80% odds betting on 50 basis points right now.
And how about 75? Does it give a percentage for them?
It's 19.4. Actually, you can check it on the CME Group Fed Funds website.
That's your thing.
Yeah.
So if it's 80% 50 and it's like 19% 75, then we just want to call it 55 and just round it up to 60 basis points, which is, if it's going to freak the market out, it's 70 and not freak the market out.
DGen, are you being kidnapped down a tunnel? Because we're having a hard time hearing you.
I think your internet's cutting out.
He's
Hey guys, the other thing I wanted to talk about was the DraftKings. Looks like I just got the news on the wire that somebody hacked their account and money was taken out from the user accounts. Somebody hacked into the user accounts and took the money out. The ticker symbol is DKNG.
How much money and how many users were affected?
I don't have the details, but it just came on the wire that the user accounts were hacked.
Trust me, bro.
So if hypothetically this is real news, the question would be how many users were impacted and how much money was moved, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to see here. It says right now, it just says couple of users. Something was happening with couple of bank accounts. And
That's not going to be market moving if it's just a couple at all.
It actually, the stock dumped 8%, I think, on that news, and the volume was pretty high. So I thought I might just share with the people.
Well, the whole market's down right now, so that could very much just be the stock following everything else.
And the other thing is, DraftKings is going to launch in Maryland on 23rd, so that might be a negative impact on people registering on the website, knowing the fact that they're not secure or their user accounts are being hacked.
I see the article on the hacking. Ben Zinga posted it. DraftKings users hacked, money in account cashed out, quote unquote, Action Network. And I guess some guy claimed that he was on vacation and he looked at his account and it got hacked and cashed out. That's the net of it.
Yeah, but if it's just some guy, it's far more likely that some dude just accidentally got his password phished, that it's not a DraftKings vulnerability, it's a him vulnerability.
Yeah, this just sounds like
I agree.
Noise. I mean, until we would get solid numbers and understand how many customers were affected, this is pretty much just useless information.
Yeah, but until the confirmation, it's, I guess, an obvious current quote unquote rumor, right? So nonetheless, it's kind of showing that there might be a lack of security within DraftKings platform, whether it's one isolated incident or not.
But again, one isolated incident is more likely to be user error than the DraftKings platform. You would expect to see thousands to tens of thousands of users impacted if it was on their end. They wouldn't just pick one dude.
Yeah, I mean, the article said a couple or a few, right? Like, it didn't just say one single dude gave his password to me and then I hacked them,
Right, but again, if you're hacking into DraftKings, a couple or a few, like, you're going to pick 3 accounts and be like, all right, I'm good. You get what I'm saying? Like, if it's a vulnerability, it should be impacting a lot of people.
Yeah, but people, once they hear it, once they hear the news, it's like, shit, am I going to be affected and I have my money in DraftKings?
No, to be honest, a scam like that, typically you run a link, right? And then you basically phish a couple accounts, maybe have like some cross scripting to steal cookies or something like that. You get some small percentage, and then they basically flag it after some suspicious amount of money gets moved to your accounts or whatever. So then you only manage to take out some small percentage, before they actually start catching you in their systems. I mean, unless they absolutely have nothing. Take it from Humbly Hacking.
Look, it looks like it was a phishing thing, and somebody tried to send a mass email, and I think it was user related rather than a vulnerability on the platform itself.
Yeah, then that's not going to affect the overall stock.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah, he said he had 500 or 600 emails that were I guess he had a special email account for this account with DraftKings, and he had 500 to 600 emails in there that were disguising their withdrawals. So they were just blasting them with trying to. But he didn't say that he opened one of them and it was a successful phishing exercise. So who knows?
Hello.
Hey, yeah. I was just
gonna comment on crypto exchanges. Coming back to that subject, I'm based out of Canada. We just got Coin Square approved. Now they have insurance up to $1 million. Now, not in US, I don't like I'm on Coinbase, and I'm reading they're only protected by crime insurance, which is I still don't know what that means and how much. And Binance, as far as I know, reading through their terms, is regulated out of Hong Kong by arbitrage body out of Hong Kong. So, as far as I know, the only regulated exchange that is covered and insured in the world is actually in Canada, which is Coin Square. So that's what I wanted just to point out. Maybe I'm wrong, so was wondering if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's different products that are regulated by different United States bodies. So, for example, when you convert your crypto on Binance in the United States, there are certain options that you can convert it into. Like, they have a partnership with a company called Paxos, and Paxos has FDIC insurance, and tokens are collateralized against, I believe, U.S. Backed securities. So there's similar things on Coinbase where you may be locking either your dollars on the platform or converting your dollars into a stable coin that has another set of regulations. So, like, the entire entity doesn't have every single asset on that exchange insured by the federal government because there's different risks associated with the underlying assets.
I see.
And I'm not sure which exchange has this, sort of insurance fund of just 1 million, but in the grand scheme of things, I'd say that that's really, really low. Like, for comparison, Binance has, what they call as the SAFU fund. That is, $1 billion worth of insurance fund.
No. What I meant is an individual investor can lose up to $1 million, and it'll be covered by the Canadian government. It's sure.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, like, if the exchange has like if it, like FTX went down, Coin Square bankrupts, and I have $1 million in on the exchange, I'm covered by the government. I'm covered by the up to $1 million. I'm covered. That's what I've read out of their terms. And then when I went to Binance, because my sister is in Miami and I'm in Toronto, and we're kind of trying to get into crypto. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not sure if you guys are covered, and but now I understand, like the other speaker has said, that there are different ways to cover the risk and distribute it across parties. So I'll have to, I guess, look into it. But yeah, that was basically the question in regards of the crypto. And just I'm Ukrainian, so I heard you guys speaking in regards of Ukraine. I'm from Kiev, capital city. And just on political situation, just wanted to chime in and say that there are countries that are waiting to go to war, which is like Estonia, Latvia, all the Baltic states are ready, Poland is ready. So the thing with the rockets, there were mixed messages there, because Czech Prime Minister, she within like half an hour, she said that her generals have stated that it was a Russian missile. So, and I don't think that going forward, we're looking at this conflict ending anytime soon. In fact, this is good for United States, as they're benefiting like they did in World War II. They're benefiting the most, and euro and everything else is just collapsing in front of our eyes.
Yeah, the last I had heard in relation to that whole incident is that those missiles were Russian made, but that they were believed to have been fired as countermeasures against Russian missiles striking Ukraine, and that they had originally come from Ukraine as a or a defensive measure.
No, yeah, I agree that has been confirmed. What I'm saying is that I think there is different factions. Like what I see is there's different factions within European Union that ones support the war and ones that don't support the war. Like Hungary, for example, said we don't want anything to do with the war. We're not going to be sending any weapons. We're not going to send any military help or anything like that. The Baltic states, the Poland. What I'm saying, there might be a break right in the European Union, and it could cause European Union to collapse, like Soviet Union in 1991 when it collapsed because it just couldn't handle everything. They couldn't make united decisions.
I mean, there's a slight difference between the makeup of and the structure of the European Union and the Soviet Union, where the Soviet Union you had member states that were kind of their own country, but not. I feel like the Soviet Union is more like how the United Kingdom is set up than how the European Union is. But definitely best of luck to you in the crypto sphere, and Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава. Thank you so much, guys. Good luck.
Thank you. Also, quick reminder that markets are closed this Thursday, and this Friday, we will be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of these Reddit talks. So, not sure what we should do, but we should definitely do something exciting for that day. But we've been doing this every single day for almost a year now. A year this Friday.
We should be discussing all the business benefits that are giving discounts to Wall Street Bet veterans.
Goodness gracious! Please no more.
We should sacrifice someone.
Simple Voice?
Well, no. We can bring back journalists just to sacrifice them.
Oh, good. What would even be like Wall Street Bets discounts? What would that be?
5% off to the wave part.
Just like that day only, they waive any commission fees on options trading.
Get 50% of your losses off on all pancakes purchased at IHOP.
Select the coupon.
69% off at Bed Bath & Beyond.
Oh, that's a pretty good discount.
Come on,
First
how
10
can
put
you totally
options
miss
build out the
Wendy's?
bid instead of
Get $420 off a Tesla.
That's not even that much compared to a Tesla, honestly. They've been raising their prices like crazy.
$2 coupon for Teslas.
Okay, $420.69 off a Tesla.
Okay, now I'm sold.
Hey guys, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah, as long as it's not about veteran coupons.
And now, so going back to that DraftKings, do you think there are any potential plays on this? What I'm thinking is that if it is something is like a phishing attempt as opposed to like an issue on DraftKings' part, then maybe there could be some call plays to be had. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say that, like, based on the discussion we were having earlier, it seems to be, affecting maybe a few users and how they really got it, whether it was through phishing or so forth. Then, buying people's overreaction on calls would probably be ideal, but I would see how it trades out first before going through it. But look into it before
right
it's late.
now? Like, are you looking at it on the hourly chart right now?
I'm looking at the 1 day right now. I mean, it's currently down about almost 8%.
Yeah, this is not advice, but just the general sentiment is when something happens and
longer reacting to it. Somebody already had the information and has already made a more sound financial decision. So you can't really wait. You basically have to like take a risk appropriate amount and make a decision right now.
Okay, so I would essentially have to just anticipate, any movement, kind of play ahead and hope for the best.
Well, like somebody already knew what was going on because the account hacks have been reported for like the past couple of days. So I think now it's just like somebody figured out the source of these DraftKings accounts. Because I saw an influencer tweeting about their account being moved. And that was like 2 days ago. So I don't think anybody could trade the news during that time. So somebody probably traded the news at the open and now everyone's reacting to it. So if it were me and I had that information, I would have shorted it and then taken the downward movement and then came back on the other side after everybody reacts to it.
Okay, cool. Appreciate it.
I have a question about the railroads. I don't know if anyone spoke on this.
Go for it.
If we see a strike in 2 weeks' time, what's the market gonna? How is the market gonna react? And if we don't see it, what's the short-term ups and downs?
So if we do see it, do you know how it feels like if you eat like Taco Bell with all the hot sauce? That's what's going to happen to the market. Like whatever you leave in the toilet, that's what the market's going to do. If it doesn't happen, I think we're going to see business as normal.
Is there something happening in 2 weeks? Is that the deadline?
I believe I saw something on that. Yeah. Let me just double check.
I don't think it's really like that large a deal. It really only makes an impact on the railroad stocks. So,
except there's a lot of goods that are still shipped via rail, and especially like some of the bigger ticket items you'd see. So that would definitely affect the automotive stocks as well. And just the fact you hear rail strike, everyone's going to freak out. And plus, that Christmas goose is going to not make it to your grocery store.
We're getting goose now? Whoa.
If there's a real,
okay, I'm sorry,
money?
I forgot. Inflation, chicken tenders.
Okay, there you go. I was gonna say, who's got goose money sitting around? Jeez.
I mean, I was
That's
gonna
what I've
say,
been wondering, because I noticed that for Thanksgiving, Walmart's got duck, and I'm like, when did we? I don't remember us having duck last year. Who has money for duck?
You can't make turducken without duck.
To answer the railroad strike thing, I think the deadline is December 8th, and if they don't negotiate or come to a negotiation or a contractual thing, then they can strike. They're authorized to strike on December 9th.
yeah, but they say this like every 90 days, ain't it? I'm pretty sure we just averted a strike with the railroads like not even 3 months ago, and I don't even think that they got what they wanted. They just didn't go on strike.
Well, I think if there was a time to strike,
I think the reason they didn't go to strike is because Biden didn't want any disruption before the midterms, and now that the midterms are behind, I think these guys want to get things done, and
I mean, why the hell do the rail workers care what Biden says?
well, it's all union thing. That's why,
So here's where,
I
we
guess.
had that tentative deal with the unions that averted the last strike, and then the unions voted and rejected those deals. And so that means we were back to square one. So I don't know a whole lot about the timelines for negotiations, but my guess is that when they had come up with that tentative agreement, it kind of reset the clock for the unions about when they were going to go on strike. And if you want to talk about potentially like Biden getting the unions to play ball until after midterms, keep in mind that one of the larger donors to the Democratic Party are the unions.
Also keep in mind Biden has been incredibly pro-union. Like, he came out in support of the Starbucks unions, the Amazon unions, which usually U.S. presidents don't go that hard into it, but he has been quite pro-union when he spoke about it.
So again, don't forget to buy your tinfoil hats today.
Well, if we're going down the tinfoil hat way, like, I really don't think it's going to be that big a deal. Like, we've got people talking about less seasonal hiring than usual. We've got, like the past year, it was a fucking shit show in terms of like everyone getting fired or stocks going down. So people are probably going to be spending less. I mean, even Jeff Bezos is like, don't buy that TV, don't buy that refrigerator. We're in for a tumultuous time. So why suddenly is it like, and shipping rates are cratering. So really, what's the, if the railroad strikes, is the impact on Christmas and all that jazz really going to be like that bad? Like, I think there's every mitigating factor showing that it won't be so bad.
The main thing that would really hurt due to a railroad strike is specific like consumable commodities. So especially grain in that. Granted, like the harvest is over, but you still have the silos and they're transporting it from the silos to like General Mills and that. So when you're looking at an uptick in products that involve corn and wheat, during this time of year, that would hurt food prices a lot. And then it also affect fuel prices because 10% of what is in the gas in the United States is ethanol, which is primarily made from corn in the United States. So that would affect things there as well.
It would definitely cause some supply chain disruptions for producers all across the board. Maybe not for Christmas, but for it's not a good way to start off the new year if you're manufacturing or waiting on supplies.
All I know is if you are going to get into an aluminum business, please pick a veteran-owned one. As always, very important.
No.
Don't tell Opinion that.
To speak to the Wall Street Bets Veteran Coupon Awards, I think we give it to Wendy's. We get some free tendies with the purchase of junior bacon.
I thought it was a free Frosty behind the dumpster.
I don't need my Frosty until I come back out front from behind the dumpster.
Yeah, free Frosty after your shift at the dumpster.
Need something to soothe that throat, you know what I'm saying?
Bro, can I just pop in here and derail whatever conversation was going on?
Yes, absolutely.
As long as
please.
it's about veteran-owned businesses.
Okay. So
as long as it's about Wendy's dumpsters.
So this is super retro. Like, this is before my time. I was not trading in the 1970s or 80s. In fact, I wasn't born for most of that time. But check out the January 2023 CSX option chain. It's trading in 8ths and 16ths. What's the stock market used to trade in, like back in like our grandfather's time. Super weird. So they have like $29.17 strike price. Like, what in the world? I've not seen that in a long time.
Is that not due to a split or something? Like, is it really trading in 8ths?
What was the date? What was the date for that?
The January 2023 CSX options chain is trading in 8ths, like it's like the 1980s or something. I have no idea. Like 8ths and 16ths. I don't understand.
Guys, I think I missed that Zoom call today. What's the verdict on that one?
On Zoom?
Yeah, today they have earnings, right? After hour.
Yeah, I don't think there was any real consensus. I think everyone acknowledges the fact that revenues are going down, expenses are going up, but that's also guided in their earnings in their previous quarterly report. So the question is just, how are they going to perform relative to expectations? And there wasn't really any kind of insight to be gleaned off that. I still haven't looked at WebEx and and how Cisco breaks it down in their earnings report. So I'm going to take a look at that. But overall, no clear direction. Although curious to hear if anyone's changed their minds in the past 2 hours.
All I know is Scald is right. That is the weirdest thing I've seen on the options chain for the strikes for CSX.
I'm pretty sure it's just a split. So they split 3-1, and that's a leap. So if they had a like 50 cent, like whatever, like $18.50 strike price, and then you divide by 3, then you get your 17 cents. That's my guess.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I just thought someone was going like really retro and being like, "Oh, we're just going to do the old school way of trading stocks."
You have to say bully every time you buy a call.
So they're doing it to distract us from the fact that they might have their whole stock price crash. They're like, people are going to look at this like, what? And they're not going to even look at this share price because they're too busy focusing on the strike prices for the contracts.
If only it was that easy.
Today's talk sponsored by Reynolds Wrap.
Not Wendy's?
Well, Wendy's doesn't make tinfoil hats.
I don't know. You ever taken some of the stuff they wrap their burgers in? You can make a hat out of that.
My
It would
goodness,
slide off
you're
your head
onto
in
something.
seconds.
I was gonna say they do wrap the burgers in some tinfoil.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised that GME didn't react like any stronger than usual. Oh, never mind. It's down 5%. Never mind. To the interview.
Getting closer to a buy level. It's been, at least recently, pretty reliable about bouncing off that 25 range.
How long have we been in that channel?
I don't have it timed out. I just noticed that it happens. My crayons all broke a long time ago. They were too tasty to keep around.
Fair enough. Well, hopefully we'll make some money today and upgrade to better crayons.
So do I buy a TV this Black Friday or not?
According to Jeff Bezos, the answer is no.
Even if it's on sale?
Actually, Black Friday.
He's going to say that, but look at all the deals he's going to have on TVs this Black Friday.
Real Black Friday question. Maybe it's just me. I feel like I haven't seen any stores pushing Black Friday ads, like at all on TV. Is that just me?
Same.
No, but I've gone to like websites and like Amazon, and then they tend to have like a early Black Friday section, and after Amazon fired like 90% of their Alexa team or however many they laid off, I see a lot of Alexas on sale right now, about 50% off, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I think that's more reflective of the fact that everyone is pulling away from advertising. If you look at all the companies that, their main business line is advertising, they're all telling you that revenue is dipping, even Google. One thing that is interesting is that I wonder when Google is going to start having layoffs. And I mean, that is a when, not an if. And I don't think Google's ever had layoffs in its history, or maybe like once. So it'll be quite the shock. And I think that might be a trading opportunity. Either way, when it finally does happen.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ladder.
In terms of like, I don't know about advertising that because like I don't have like traditional TV in that, but when it comes to like the actual platforms themselves, like if you open up the Walmart app, it automatically just pops up, oh, we have Black Friday deals, and especially if you're a Walmart Plus member, it's like, hey, take a look at these, you have early access. So I think they're not really reaching out to people who are, just idly watching TV or that, but if they're looking for people who are in the process of trying to make a purchase and they're trying to peddle it that way, I think they're just pivoting on where they're focusing their attention.
Yeah, I think the Google piece, they've been criticized recently for actually hiring more people, right? Opinion, is that kind of what you were alluding to? That once they start doing the layoffs, then we're going to be in a very sticky situation.
Well, no, I mean, like, I think everyone's been doing layoffs. So Google's the stalwart, where they're the only ones that, of the major companies that I can think of, that haven't done layoffs. But I think when they do, that's going to be the proof that advertising revenues are truly down, and they're going to stay down for the foreseeable future. The only question is, if you truly believe that's going to happen, do you get into a short position into Google now, or like, do you wait? Because no one knows if this layoff is going to happen. Like, no one knows when it's going to happen.
Yeah, what's
Well, the
strange is
question
that
is,
like most of these layoffs that have been occurring, like Meta, like that's been bullish, right? Like that's kind of the weird part that's been going on, especially since that's what the Fed's encouraging is layoffs. It seems to be the new norm, the new news pump for some of these companies.
do we
Yeah.
The
see
news
where
stock split.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, Google just laid off, 20,000 people, bullish. But I mean, I see your point that if they're the only ones not doing it, and that might be an opposite scenario where it actually goes down on layoff news.
I think we might see, instead of just like a layoffs, they just do something to make the environment that uncomfortable, so people just voluntarily quit on their own. Because that would be the cheaper option, just to make it where people don't want to work there anymore and they quit. Then they don't have to worry about
Well,
Like
severance as
Elon
much in
on
3
Twitter.
months
the
notice.
the challenge with that is, generally you end up losing the best performers first, because they have the most options. And the thing you'll find is that with any like major tech company, even if they announce a hiring freeze like Meta did, they're still going to be hiring for upper levels, because those are a fixed pool. There's just not enough of them to go around, and the impact they have is very outsized compared to their actual salary. So what they tend to do, and I think what Google has done, is cut back, travel, put restrictions on, some of the free perks they give uh, their employees, cut back on some benefits like free lunches and stuff. I mean, it sounds kind of small, but like, even at a small-ish size company like Twitter, with 7,500 employees or so, those free lunches were costing them around $13 million a year, which isn't nothing.
400 a
So
person, right?
yeah, something like that. And remember, like, not everyone is in office.
Yeah, 25%
So
occupancy.
then you really have to, when you start cutting things like that, you do it as a way to prevent having to do layoffs. And a lot of companies, would prefer to keep everyone on board, but at, lower quality of like work life, if you will, rather than do the opposite. But every company's got their own strategy. Obviously, the companies that did layoffs, their strategy was layoffs.
Yeah, but Elon
So
Musk with Twitter, he's kind of like going back in time and try to create a different leadership of where you can treat people however you want, and then, quote unquote, they'll need a job. So then they'll stick around. But he's finding out the opposite's happening, where even the key players are leaving, and he's trying to keep them, and they're like, "Nah, I'm out." Like, because the quality of life is kind of our new generation's way of like work environment, right? Where grandparents, it was you need a job, they stayed in one job forever, job security. Second was kind of just you wanted just the standard life. Now it's quality of life, which is why the free meals and free coffees and ping pong in the lobby areas and so forth became a thing. But Elon Musk style is kind of going back old school, and people are just not having it because the quality of life at Twitter was so high, which is probably why they weren't really doing much. But I think that's what everybody wants in a job, at least from kind of like the millennial
well,
generation.
I think it's two things. First of all, Twitter probably selected for the people who preferred, a certain way of life, and as a result, they're obviously going to face higher amounts of people wanting to leave when that changes. But I think by far and large, the biggest thing is just like, people want to work kind of with like-minded people, and that's probably the biggest draw whenever Elon Musk runs a company, is that he wants the entire organization, like any company does, to be full of the smartest people. But that's his selling point to onboarding employees, is that you're going to be working with the hardest working people, the smartest people, in order to solve challenging problems. And that's like something I read like continuously about on like Hacker News and stuff. Is like tech employees are always looking for what is like, where can I go to work on hard problems instead of working on the same old like crud app. So Elon Musk really like relies on that, pulling people in because he's got an interesting mission. People are working on hard problems, and it sounds like he hasn't really sold people or engineers on that at Twitter. And I don't know if part of it is definitely that like the people at Twitter were like not the kinds of people that maybe you want to stick around. But he also hasn't brought in like too many people, as far as I can see, like other than stealing autopilot engineers from Tesla, which I don't know how that legal lawsuit is going to go through, or that legal battle is going to go down. I don't know. I haven't seen him go on like some big hiring spree or talk about that. So I really do
If I
wonder.
could interject real quick, I think
Absolutely.
also you have to take into account social perception. So public opinion of him has started to decrease tremendously, especially in light of workers' conditions and things like that. You hear about a lot of people basically going through the churn, and whether you're looking at really any of his companies, there's often the words exploitation or the words of like overworked and things like that being used. So when you juxtapose that against the lifestyles that these engineers have, you have to take into consideration, there's definitely two different styles of people, right? There's the people you're talking about who want to work on hard problems, but it's not binary, right? There's a certain amount of that people want, and then there's a certain amount of just total compensation, lifestyle that most people want. And in reality, I think it's way easier to find hard problems to solve when you're having an easy time, because you basically just have to sit there and you can come up with hard problems on your own. You can't always get paid anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm just realizing the time and the fact that the listeners have kind of dwindled down. But for those who have stayed, I do want to kind of quickly ask you, like, what did you like about today's talk? It was a little bit different than usual, with like having fewer people up here up until after hours. So let us know what you think in the comments, so I can kind of like review all that feedback. And just again, yeah, this Friday is our 1-year anniversary. So if you have ideas for what we should do, please put that in the comments. But
thanks, Opinion. And did you already say what time the markets close on Friday? If they close early, I thought it was maybe 1 p.m. Eastern time, but
I think on Thursday they're just closed all day, and now I'm starting to question myself.
yeah, I was hearing something about Friday being closed early, but I was too lazy to look it up. Or they close at 1 p.m. Friday. Sorry, is what I thought.
I'm not seeing that, but if anyone has more information on that, could be the bond markets. Jeep 91, we cannot afford to hand out free stocks to everyone. That is Robinhood's business, and Robinhood stock isn't doing so well. So
Thursday the market are closed, and Friday it closes at 1 p.m. It's early market close on Friday.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. I did not know that.
All right, cool. So it's short week.
Short week, yeah. Does that mean that you'll lose less money this week? Probably not, but it's nice to hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because traditionally the past 15 Thanksgivings, like the week has ended like 0.92% up, like SPY wise. So we'll see if that holds.
Not off to a good start. All right.
Thanks, Opinion.
No worries. I guess we'll wrap it up here then. I'll end the talk in just a second. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming up, and excited to continue experimenting with these talks and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Try not to lose any more money than you already have.
Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks.
Goodbye for now.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.